A playlist original.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Back to the Blockbuster with your hosts, Gaius and Jackson. How's it going over there, buddy?
Oh, we're doing all right. I'm fresh off episode 6 of Last of Us, so I'm still reeling from that. And had a pretty solid, nice, relaxing week. So things are good. How you doing, my friend?
Nice. I have to say I haven't watched the last episode yet because I
Ah,
like I told you offline. Like I ended up staying out a little later because we had a friend that was like in town,
yeah.
and they were like, "It's my only night." And then it was a holiday weekend. It was President's Day, so a lot of people had today off. So
Oh, yeah, President's Day. That's right. So that's not a thing we celebrate over here. I kind of realize, is that like
yeah,
a national holiday?
yeah, it's like it's a federal holiday, so like banks are closed and like post
Oh,
office.
okay.
I have a few friends that actually don't get it off. Same thing with like MLK Day and all that. Like, so this is one of them that like some of my friends are very happy, so they were like, "Let's go out on Sunday," and then some of my other friends were like, "Well,
Right.
fuck you guys. I still got to work tomorrow." like, so like some people got
Yeah.
lucky, some people don't. But
Well,
yeah, I still got some watches in and stuff, despite the
yeah, get
very long
get at
weekend.
in
But
episode 6. It was a good episode. You'll enjoy it, I'm sure, no doubt. What did Tell us a little bit about what you got in this last week?
all right, well, I guess I'll start with the big one. I saw Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, which, as you know, it has a very dismal, I think 48% on Rotten Tomatoes. The audience score is like a little bit better. It's like I think it's the last time I checked, it was like 83%. It might have dropped a little bit since then.
Okay.
Cinema score is a B, which is not like great for Marvel. Like it's not like a train wreck, but it's not like you know
Right.
a total disaster.
No
Here's why,
doubt.
yeah. Here's
Sorry,
what
yeah,
I,
continue.
no, yeah. Here's what I'll say about it. Just in case if you're gonna go see it, it's way different from the other two Ant-Man movies. Like the tone is still kind of like so. What I was hoping for, I think we talked about this when the trailer came out.
Right.
Appeared that like they were kind of raising the stakes a little bit, and it was going to be a bit more serious than the other two Ant-Man movies. There are moments of that, but it's still pretty light, and that part was like a little disappointing a bit. But I did like what they did with just like the what they did with the villain, which is the major thing. He was great once.
And like the idea of Kang and setting up the next big villain for the
Yeah.
MCU going forward is interesting enough.
Yeah, it
But
is
yeah, no,
yeah.
I've heard mixed things.
Yeah, so like I mean Jonathan Majors is amazing. Like take that. He's continuing like a really really great streak of like roles and just like very like you can tell he's a very like diverse actor, like very like he there was times in the movie where he was channeling this kind of like controlled like rage that was really like almost frightening a bit. Like it was like he is
Okay.
the real deal. Like I can like at first I was like, how is he gonna be like this like A-level threat if they're introducing him here like in like third Ant-Man movie? But
Right.
to not give it away, the end credit scene really sets up how he will be a major threat, and like
Okay.
maybe a bit more than Thanos. I'm just gonna throw that out there. I don't know if everyone agrees with that,
Okay.
but
Well, they
like
have to go that route.
yeah. I mean, you have to go bigger, right? I mean, you can't like if you have
Exactly.
someone, yeah, you have someone like Thanos, you can't like you're right. We have to make the threat even bigger this time,
Hmm.
and I think with him they at least got that right. I think that it's gonna be really interesting to watch like get bigger throughout other movies that are kind of leading up to like Avengers, the Kang Dynasty, which is going to be the
Right.
first big Avengers movie, and then I don't know what they're doing with Secret Wars as far as like that's concerned, but like it's going to be interesting to see him going up against the different heroes in the MCU,
Hmm.
and because like this guy has like he just believes in like total destruction and annihilation, and with no like real like he believes what he's doing is right. He believes that he's
Oh,
justified
okay.
and like in conquering all these different verses and stuff. But the way Jonathan Majors plays it, he plays like it's just more than like egomaniacal villain. Like he had a lot more like layers, and even in this, and I was like surprised that like he they actually brought that into this a bit. So it was like,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, go ahead.
That's good. Like every good worthwhile villain has some layers to it. And I find that's something that in particular the MCU's been struggling with the last phase or a little bit, like post
Yeah,
Thanos, like their villains feel very much one dimensional. You introduce in one movie and beaten by the end and don't
right.
really have very vast implications. So their bread and butter and their pride of the MCU comes in like they're really well thought out villains like Thanos and Loki at parts as well. So hopefully
Right.
they really play and construct like this new villain Kang going forward and play their cards right with that, so he can be like an intimidating presence for at least a phase or two.
Right. I agree. And like, like here's what I'll say. Like, is it like the perfect kickoff to phase five? It's not. There's some narrative issues and like, like I said, I was expecting it to be more like the stakes to be like a bit more in it because the trailer
Right.
really seemed to indicate that was where it was headed. But it still was entertaining and like I thought it was visually very
That's good.
interesting. I mean, like it goes from like for some bold swings as far as like, hey, like this is very different from the other two movies that you were used to, and at least it took some kind of chances in like introducing you to this like world that some people I you read some of the reviews, some people have dug what they've done with the quantum realm and all that, and then other people are like,
Right.
this is a little too over the top, it's too much. It's all gonna come down to personal preference for you, I think, when you see it. But I Jonathan Majors alone, and like he kind of like the first two acts are kind of like hit or miss, but he kind of gets introduced like almost near like the end of the second, and like
Okay.
and, and once he becomes the center, like it's like a totally different movie. Like it feels like it's a jolt, like a necessary jolt that it needed,
Okay.
and that would be enough for me to recommend it to people that are even like can I skip this one, can I like maybe wait to see what they come out with next. Like
Right.
no, I would still recommend watching it. Paul Rudd is good as always because Paul Rudd is
Of
good at
course.
everything.
That's
I
the
like
ageless Paul Rudd.
yeah, the ageless Paul Rudd, that lucky son of a gun.
Yeah. Good genes on him.
Good genes, him and Jennifer Lopez just like rocking
Yeah.
good genes.
And Tom Cruise.
And Tom Cruise, yeah, like not fair. But yeah, Catherine Newton was really good as his daughter. Well, she did a really good job. They gave Michelle Pfeiffer a lot more to do in this one compared to
Oh,
Ant-Man and the Wasp.
right on.
She really is at the center of like what goes on with Kang, like and how he's introduced and stuff. You know, Evangeline Lilly, I've always kind of been like just meh about that character. Like
Okay.
she is,
How is she in this one?
she's fine. Like it's like
Same thing. Yeah.
so I think my problem with I don't think, and it's not his fault. Maybe it's not even her fault. I just don't like totally get the chemistry, I guess, between them. Like, I want to be more invested in that relationship since they are a duo, and like,
Right.
it's just not like 100% there for me. I don't know, and
Okay.
I felt like that since like the beginning. Like it's just like she's a good actress, I think, and of course he's a good actor. They don't really feel like solid romantic pairing. Like I almost buy them just as friends rather than like
Is that what they are? Because I haven't
yeah
seen either of the Ant Man, so I
yeah
don't really know shit all
they're
about.
yeah they're together and like they just
Oh,
don't have
okay.
there's just no spark, if that makes sense. Like there's
Okay.
like and like especially since a lot of stuff comes down to like you know some of their choices and like the relationship should feel more like tight, especially if you're gonna throw out a scenario where they might lose each other or something like that. Like want to
Right.
feel more about them as a couple and like I don't know. I mean, I don't know if it's the writing or if it's just like they seem like they gel more as friends, but like it just by the third movie, if they're not really fully connected like that, then something feels like a little off to me, and that's just like
Well,
personal opinion.
yeah, no, and you're not the first person to say that. I do think it probably comes down to the writing. I think it was just an odd move having like I feel like the Ant Man's movies' strengths are in like their comedy and their lower staked kind
Right,
of plot
right.
points. So interesting to have that movie be like the setup for the next big bad and have the stakes that it does. So I'll be interested to chat with you further about that once I
Yeah,
see it. I'd like to say I'd get in the first two Ant-Mans before I go see Quantum Mania. I just don't see it happening, just like with all that there is to watch and my schedule and whatnot. But
yeah,
that'll be interesting to chat a little bit more forward. But yeah, hopefully here they can ignite and put a spark into the phase five going forward. And maybe the next one will be a bigger hit. Which, come to think of it, I
Guardians
know
might
that
be
you
next.
mentioned is it? Oh yeah, which is
Yeah, be
March or
yeah,
April.
May. So that May 5th, I think.
Dang.
So like, and I honestly think that like, I mean, I think we didn't get to talk about this because we didn't know how many viewers like the Super Bowl got when we recorded last week.
Right.
But live viewership, it was 113 million people watched it live. It actually peaked at
Okay.
118 million viewers during the halftime show. So like, I guess like a lot of people
Nice.
rushed to watch the halftime show. But then, of course, they got all those movie trailers that came out, and I believe Guardians, it was the most viewed Super Bowl trailer in its first 24 hours. It was like a 137 million
Nice.
views. I was surprised it was that one. I thought like curiosity about the Flash might make that one the bigger one. But I think that one got like 97.4 million views in 24 hours.
Damn.
And then Fast 10 got like 90 something. But like the Guardians one was like well ahead of it in views in its first 24 hours. So
Big time. Yeah.
I kind of think even with the like lukewarm critical reception to this movie, I think if that Guardians movie is really good, because it seems like it will be, that'll like get people back again if they're feeling like kind of like, oh, like this is starting off clunky, like I'm not sure, like
Mm.
so many people have mixed feelings about Phase 4 too, right? So like they're going into this like, all right, make this better. I think Guardians might do that for them. And yeah, so like,
Yeah.
yeah, I it seems like trust James Gunn, and like he really knows those characters and really knows that story, and I think he wants to finish it off strong. So I have faith that like if you're feeling kind of wishy-washy about Ant-Man, like Guardians will probably get you back into the fold until they disappoint you again.
Yeah, it's been a property. It's been a property that they've been able to rely on in the past, right? It's a big,
Yeah,
some of the better received Marvel movies or MCU
yeah,
movies. So hopefully, that's a good one to have coming down the pipe next after like a middling sort of entry, and one that's no doubt leaving Marvel execs kind of a little bit existential as how things are going to really play out after, like you said, a
yeah,
very mixed Phase 4. So yeah,
yeah. I
hopefully
agree.
it can turn the tide a little bit next.
Yeah, and honestly,
So
like
be
the
yeah,
power of Marvel too. I want to say, like, we're going to talk about box office at the end, like, get everyone's guesses for the box office. Even with
right.
even with the response that it like critically, it still like did really well over the President's Day weekend. So like, even when Marvel is seems like, oh, like you try to like knock them down, it's still kind of, at least this
Mhm.
opening weekend, like yeah, we still got it despite what people might feel about the movie. So like, that's why they still have that advantage over DC at the moment, because like even when they have clunkers, it's like, well, our clunkers still do pretty well. So
That's right, and it's the difference in the trailer views. That's a point I wanted to mention. Like, just goes to show really that divide between DC and Marvel fandoms, and
yeah,
which one is really bringing in the numbers. I mean, 97 million views,
so a
nothing to
lot,
shake a
yeah,
stick at. Don't, yeah,
right,
absolutely. That's a lot of fucking people, but
yeah,
it's yeah, they definitely still have that edge. But I'd be interested to see. Could reassess this whole dynamic in another few years once James Gunn's like DCU really takes off and they get a few
yeah,
entries. Be interested to see, because really looking at it right now, just like from a macro sense, it really looks like the MCU is trending slightly down, and DC is about to enter this brand new phase. We're starting it from the ground up, and the trajectory
yeah.
is looking good. We could be seeing a dynamic
Dude,
change here going forward.
can you imagine like the social media chatter if like they switch positions and DC is suddenly like really good and Marvel
It'll
is
be a
like,
new era.
yeah.
That's
Like, I can't imagine a day where people are gonna be like, fuck Marvel. But like it'd be really interesting if like they switch roles and DC was like the golden god of like comic book movies and Marvel was
all
like
good
trying
things
to kill.
must come to an end. And
Yeah,
the
man. I mean,
MCU's been going on for 31 movies now. Like,
yeah,
eventually that reign is going to have to end. And I think that we could be seeing the beginning of that.
yeah.
Time will tell.
Time will tell. I mean, we still got, we still need James Gunn. He still needs to prove like with his new stuff, and,
Yes.
and like, is it going to be fair to like rate it with like the stuff that we have left over that he's not in charge of, like Shazam and the Flash and
No,
Aquaman? It won't be fair until like his new stuff that he's
exactly.
bringing.
That's
Yeah,
right. It won't
yeah,
start for 20 till 2025 when we get his Superman movie.
right. Not, but
That's when we can
also
start looking.
it'll, it was interesting too about the Flash trailer. Not, I mean, like you said, 97 million views is a lot, but like even with the
Mm,
Michael Keaton assist, I thought it would like push over like
great
100
point.
million views. I was like, because
Great
I thought
point.
like I thought there was like more like, because this was the first trailer that we were getting for it. This would be like the second Guardians trailer, so I didn't think there'd be like that much like hype around it. But I guess like
Right.
people, I mean, people
Yeah,
really
we
like
already
that
had a
franchise a lot.
3 minute long Guardians trailer.
Yeah, like
I guess I do.
they really do. And
Yeah.
yeah, we'll see. And I'll touch on Ant Man a little bit more when we go over the box office later. But you know, no big rush to see it if you're you probably wait if you wanted to. But
Yeah,
but
it's Disney Plus.
still entertaining. It's still entertaining.
Right.
So the other watch, I guess, one that we shared, because like you're like, if I'm gonna watch this, I think you should watch it because I would like to
Right.
talk about it.
I'm
And
so excited for this.
I know. So I have been wanting to watch it because, first of all, like any like, if there's any new horror film that gets like buzz and people are like, "Oh, it's the scariest thing I've ever seen," I'm instantly like, "This could be really good, are gonna be really bad. And the film that got that buzz recently is a little horror movie that costs like I think 15 grand to make,
Little
called
is an understatement.
called Skinamarink. It started to make kind of like huge buzz on TikTok, really, from a lot of people watching it.
Yep.
And like now, of
That's where I
course,
first heard of it.
from what I've seen from the TikTok videos, it's mostly like younger people who are like, "Oh, this is so scary." So I try to take that with a grain of salt. I was like, "Well, I mean, it might scare like a 10-year-old, like whatever, you know."
Right.
And but then like what intrigued me was like critical reviews weren't that bad. It has like a 72% on Rotten Tomatoes, which like for a horror film is pretty good.
That's in the good
Uh,
sphere. Yeah.
yeah, but I kept avoiding it because I was like, I watch it when I watch it, like whatever.
Yeah.
But then what intrigued me even more, which is probably like the interesting thing for you too, is in our little cinephile community, there are people that like love it. Like they're like, oh, it's such a good experimental horror film. And then there's the total opposite. They're like, this is the shittiest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Merc to the movies comes to mind because I paid attention to his review, and when he saw it, I commented, and I know we've probably chatted about this. I was like, I'm going to watch this soon
he
based
was
on what he
he
said.
he
He
was
hated
none
it.
too he was none too pleased, and also like he's been a guest on like David Gonzalez's like Real Chronicles podcast,
Okay.
and David hated it too. I mean like I
Oh,
like
okay.
he a new one. And
Right.
but then I was seeing reviews like that, but then I'm like looking at other people on in that community who I like respect and think they have really good views on films, and they were just like respected it for like, it's like it describes itself as an experimental horror film. Like so this is
Exactly.
like they actually like appreciated the experiment. And I thought it was gonna be one way or the other. I was gonna love it or like hate it. Here's the deal.
Right.
I'll say this and we can go into like more details. I
Absolutely.
I respect um I respect the experiment because I think that it also depends on how you watch it. So I watched it
Big time. Big
in the
time.
dark by
Yep.
myself.
So glad to hear that. I'm glad
Yeah.
because I watched it with
So
a buddy, but in the pitch black, and that's how it should be
yeah.
watched.
So like here's the deal. Like what it does well is like you're anticipating a lot happening. So you're just sitting there watching it, and a lot of it is just silence and then occasional noises and then occasional like kids speaking in very soft voices, a lot of whispering, but
Yeah,
creates like this like mood that's already like unsettling. So like I got it. I think if I would have watched it with the lights on, like during the day, I probably wouldn't have felt that unease a
I
little bit.
agree.
It reminded me of when I first saw, because I didn't see Paranormal Activity in the theaters. I saw it at home alone
Okay.
in the dark,
Ah, you're a
and
brave man. Oh
and
shit.
that movie hits 10 times different, like Home Alone in the dark.
Yeah.
It's actually pretty scary. I would say
Shit your
the
pants.
first three of those movies work really well at home, guys, alone in
I
the dark.
agree.
And this works for me pretty well, just based on creating my own atmosphere while watching it. You kind of get sucked into like the world they're like kind of creating. And yes, I can understand why some people won't like this, because like it is also like a trial, a test of your patience. Like you're like what's gonna happen, what's going on, I don't really
When
know
is
what's
something gonna happen?
yeah,
Yeah.
but I'm 100% intrigued though. Like I'm like you're glued to it. And so in that sense, I think they did a good job like pulling you in. Why it's polarizing, I understand, like, but it also
Totally.
reminded me of like if a kid made this in film school, you might actually give them more credit for it. I mean, like it seemed like they would be like, oh, that's a really cool like thing that now it probably would have worked better as like a short film, because at an hour and 40 minutes it's
Totally.
really
Too
long.
long.
That's way
Too
too
long.
long. Like the sweet spot for a horror movie, if it's like an hour and a half, like if that, this could have been
Exactly.
short, and this could have been shorter.
In a good hour long movie or 45-minute long movie.
Right. Like so that was my thing. I was like, all right, I respect the experiment. I also would have respected if you trimmed about 40 minutes off the runtime.
Totally.
But overall, like there were moments that made me feel uneasy, and there were moments I jumped like a little bit. There was some stuff that kind of caught me off guard. Uh and I guess what worked for me, it play like you feel like you're one of those kids. It plays on like your own kind of childhood fears. Like it's like something as simple as like being alone in the dark or being left alone. That
Totally.
overall feeling, like that's universal. Like we all like have felt that when we were kids, like oh like, and I think it did a good job of like honing in on that. And I like, no, like Merc, you're gonna say something when you listen to this, David too, a few others that didn't like it. I will take the heat and take whatever critical beating you want to give me, but I dug it. I don't know. What about you?
Hey man, I'm gonna jump right in the pan with you, and I will absorb any flack given as well because I will say I absolutely loved Skinamarink. Been like antsy, waiting all week to chat this with you, just with somebody beyond like. So my buddy Cam and I, like, that's my
Yeah,
movie guy. We watched it together. This is something that we've been anticipating for a while. We both felt very similarly about it. Like we both really liked it. But just like to speak with you and like the listeners that may be wondering if they're gonna watch it or are just wanting to hear what we have to say about it. This is something I've been really looking forward to chatting about because
yeah.
I won't lie, like Merck's opinion of the movie, I've thoroughly read it a couple times, and I'm glad and grateful to have read his review before I went into it because I feel like it really did prepare me more for what we were going to
What you're
get.
gonna get? Yeah,
And put it the best way, somebody said it is a movie that rewards the patient viewer, and so much is. Like again, really, I can't recommend enough to people that maybe are thinking about watching it
right.
to really immerse, to recreate that environment that the movie takes place in, which is literally like in a dark house alone. Like maybe people won't watch it by themselves. Like you're brave for doing that because like this was a movie where at multiple points it was the most freaked out in a movie I'd been in a long time, which is I think contributes to why I really enjoyed it as much as I do because
Right.
I love to be scared, and it's so hard these days to genuinely scare me. Just you get desensitized to horror content the longer you watch stuff, I find. And like
Yeah.
I've always loved horror stuff and being freaked out since I was a kid, like as far back as I can remember. So those few movies that come along that do scare me, I just appreciate them so much more. And there were some sequences like the check under the bed sequence, you know what I'm talking
Oh,
about? Like
so
that scene.
that
Holy
fucking
shit,
so I
dude.
wasn't expecting it really because I
No,
was like,
holy
because again,
fuck.
like this is a $15,000 movie. It's very grainy, and so you have to like basically like I'm trying to like lay in bed, but also like pay close attention to what's going on the screen. And like there's certain
Right.
things you don't really catch at first, and then I was like got in the room, and I was like. He was like, I just heard him whisper, like, look under the bed. And I was like, what the fuck? And I was
Yeah.
like, wasn't even expecting that. And then like, there's that tension of like her like looking, and you're waiting for like something
You're waiting for something
to
to jump
happen,
or
and
something.
then like she's like, I don't see anything, and I'm like, oh wait, what the fuck? What's going on? And then boom, the mom. And I was like,
Yeah.
and I was like, whoa, and then she's like, I don't know, man. I don't know if I'm just like older I get or what it is, but like whispering scares me. I don't know, like this whole like whispered name thing. I was like, in my bed, like I was like, what's gonna happen? What's gonna happen?
Absolutely.
That whole
And
like that terrified me actually. Like I was
it's
just like,
and in that
uh,
same sequence with the mom and like the bones cracking and
yeah,
her like
it's like,
whispering to the daughter, like Jesus, it's I just love that it wasn't a barrage of jump scares like so many typical like horror movies over the last 10, 20 years
right,
just throw jump scares at you. Like the ones that reserve them and only throw in a couple, if any, like those are the master classes at building
right,
tension. And it's not that it didn't pay off. Like there's definitely some scary moments that just aren't jump scares, but I really appreciated that about the movie. And yeah, so it's again too long, but even though there's not a lot that happens, you are getting you're very much invited into what you don't see in that movie. Like you don't have to be necessarily staring at something and get an answer to get scared. Like there's stuff that
right,
happens off camera, some stuff
yeah,
that you're picking up with the dialogue with the kids. That's
yeah,
really freaky. And like, I don't know how long into the movie it is before you start actually hearing from like the entity, I guess you can call it,
yeah.
that starts speaking to the kids. From that moment on, it becomes a very different movie, more, I guess, although it's
Much,
very experimental, more
yeah,
traditional, where
more
there's
traditional
actually
horror film.
something
Yeah,
to be afraid of. Yeah.
right, right,
And from then
right,
on, I'd say I thoroughly was on board, was really enjoying what I was seeing. Um, and saw a lot of videos too after, like people that really pieced it together in a more intellectual sense for me.
right.
That just there's a lot of different ways that you can like approach what
Take
you're
it.
seeing on the movie. Like I like to look at it as like face value, like these kids are being plagued by some force that's taking them out of their house or out of their dimension and
Jen.
stuff's going on. But I mean,
Yeah,
there's a lot of cool allegories for like neglect and abuse that these kids may or may
yeah.
not,
I can totally see
have
that.
being
Yeah,
done to them. So a lot of
yeah,
cool ways to look at that movie, and that's what I really a movie should really be able to make you think and not just
right.
have a concrete answer. Sometimes that's what I really look for in a horror movie. It came across very like David Lynch to me, which I love him to
Yeah,
death. So
got that vibe too. I was also like, I took it as you did too. I took it at face value. Like I didn't dive in much deeper than that, but I have heard other people kind of throwing different like ideas, like what
exactly.
the deeper meaning might be. And to me, that's a sign of at least you may not like love the movie, but at least an interesting one because it's making you like kind of ask questions like, like could it be this?
Hmm.
Could it be that? So I thought that was really interesting. And I also want to say what you said about the jump scares. This could have been something that easily used a lot of them,
Yeah,
especially since you have to, like I said, in the dark, focus on what's on the screen. So while you're focusing on that, they could have easily just been like pop, like with a bunch of them,
it
and
would
they
have been
don't.
easy.
Yeah,
That's
and like
right.
credit to I want to get what's his name, Kyle Edward
Kyle
Ball.
Edward Ball,
It's
right?
like directorial debut too. I mean, like, look, I what I can say is I think he should be very proud that like getting this much attention, whether it's positive or negative, because they're really people are really like diving in and talking about your movie, and like
That is a win alone.
right, and like you can get people like us who are like. I dig the experiment. I liked it. It worked for me,
Hmm.
and it might not work for everyone else, or like but like that. I think you want that from like your feature debut. Like the
Absolutely.
more people talk about it, negative or positive, it makes more people want to see it. And I think that's like what's happening with this. It's just the curiosity. Like, is it the scariest thing I'm gonna ever see, or is it the worst thing I'm gonna ever see? Like that like has generated he's generated all kind of buzz, whether it's good or bad.
In that sense, it's like that old expression, like there's no such thing as bad publicity, especially when it comes to filmmaking. Like the more people are
Right.
talking about your movie, that can only do well for you.
Right. And I don't like I will say this on the record. I don't think it's the scariest thing I've ever seen. Like
Oh,
it's not the scariest
I
movie of all
agree.
time. Maybe if you're 8 or 9 or 10 on TikTok, it probably is the scariest thing you've ever seen. But like, dude, I mean, like we're always talking about like people like not only like original like movies, but especially like any original horror movies. If there's any good idea that I,
Hmm.
we always want people to explore new ideas. Like don't reboot this, don't rehash that, don't sequelize this too much.
Right.
And like like for instance, I don't love the Blair Witch Project. But
Okay.
I still think as I mean when that movie came out, as far as like the marketing behind it, making all of us think that it was real, to me that
Mm,
was a game changing thing for the horror genre in general.
I wish I could have
I
been
res-
there for that.
yeah, I respect that movie for creating that kind of like genuine like that was the scariest part was like oh like is this real like and they fooled you with like fake documentaries that they aired on TV like
Right.
they fake websites like interviewing people like from the town like weren't really like and then also I mean I guess one good thing that they did do with the Blair Witch Project is the actors knew that they were acting, but the filmmakers were like basically saying like you're gonna say these general things, not really telling them what they were gonna do to them, like how they were gonna scare them. So like I also think that is a really unique way to like get the performances they got out of them. Now that is an experiment I don't think necessarily worked entirely for me because I think that
Right.
movie was even at the time when I saw it was just the victim of like so much hype, like so much hype.
That
So when I
that can
finally
kill
saw
it.
it,
Yeah.
yeah, when I finally saw it, and also I saw it sitting in the front row, which is like the worst because like the
Oh
camera like
no.
so
Oh, I'm
like
sorry,
so
bro.
yeah, so then of course I had to see it later. So maybe I was like maybe that affected my view of it, but then I watched it again and I was like no,
Right.
it's it just didn't entire. I didn't think it was like scary or like the idea was better than the execution is what I'll say with that
With Blair Witch, you mean? Yeah.
with Blair Witch Project. And I think this for me, the idea matched the execution. I thought like what I mean like, dude, I mean working with like no money and like I mean like
Yeah.
just like I like and what he was able to do like. So, I mean, I've some people been posting it like on like Instagram and stuff, like some like the like kind of like black basically screens of like oh like this is like really cool shot from Skinamarink, but like sarcastic, like trying to make fun of it. Oh, I can't even see anything, like trying to make fun
That's
of it.
funny.
But
Yeah.
like in it, and I see the humor in it. I also see the value in like the reviews that like Merck did. I can understand
Oh,
the points of
definitely.
like yeah, and then
Yep.
some of the other bad reviews that I actually get it. But it's one of those things that's like didn't work for you, but it worked for me. So
And that's
like
totally fine. I love that we can have just a discussion about it. And I would actually, I'm thinking of like in the future, like revisiting that movie, having it fresh in all our minds, and then like having a good conversation and seeing how it holds up. Because maybe I won't find as much to appreciate about it in the future, but I'm really feeling like I will. It sounds like we were affected a little bit differently by. Like I would say, this is a movie that actually did frighten me at times. Like I said, it is nothing, or sorry, does not happen that often for me. But like
yeah,
it's been, I watched it on Tuesday. We're now recording. It's Monday. I'm
right.
still looking over my shoulder when I'm in my apartment alone, man. Like I'm still like freaked out a little bit. I just love that feeling. It's something I don't know. I'm a psycho. There's surely a name for that phenomenon, but it just doesn't happen that often. So I really appreciate actually being freaked out.
You're just
And what else?
you're just gonna hear like people like whispering like Jackson.
No, but like actually, man, like it fucked with me a little bit,
And
which
that
I'm
would be
just
enough to like totally freak me out. I'm like, ah, well, what's that?
that's right. The
Yeah,
the genius in it is again like not showing you everything. There's things you
yeah,
see, just spoiler alert, you'll see a little bit of something somewhere, enough to like be able to kind of put an idea as to what is happening to these kids. But the genius lies in your imagination really takes hold and almost creates the fear for you. You are not sure what you're looking at for 95% of this movie, and
yeah,
your brain just gets to run free and imagine whatever it wants is in the dark or is off
right.
screen or is in the basement or under the bed. And that's just, I don't know, super, creative. And I think you said this really worked for me. And I'm glad to have seen it. And glad
Yeah,
this movie was made.
and your imagination, like, because you, I can make the situation much more scarier for you. It's like
Totally.
you're going through like so many different things. Like, what is this? What am I seeing? What am I trying
Mm.
to hear? Like I said, like I don't know why I had to like get closer to like try to listen to what was going on, but I was like, but like it was
Oh, I
moments
had the
like that,
volume cranked.
and I was like, and I would feel like kind of scared. But I was like getting like, I feel like something's about to like pop out or something's gonna happen, and I'm gonna like jump like a little bitch. Well, I mean, it's not by myself, but like at like, but like that's a sign of like a pretty effective horror
Totally.
film, I think. Well, how does your buddy react to it?
Almost the same. Like we both
Okay,
were pleasantly surprised, liked it more than we thought. I was almost like going in like expecting not to like it as much, just because like I was pumped seeing it on TikTok and like hearing people talk about this new experimental low budget horror movie. I was like, I'm so on board for that. Hope it does well. Then I see more and more divisive reviews, and I was like, okay, I know a little bit about more what's to expect. So I went in cautiously optimistic, and I feel like if I went in there too hyped to be freaked out, I may not have paid off as well. But which is why I'm like appreciative of the
yeah,
stuff I was able to read and reviews like JC's beforehand.
yeah,
Yeah, no, I ended up coming across liking it, and so did he. Very much in agreement. We were chatting today because that's who I watched Last of Us with earlier, and
yeah.
we were just revisiting it and chatting about how it had been in a week after seeing it. But all that being said, as much as I want this movie to do well and I would want people to see it, it's not a movie I would recommend to hardly anybody. Like
So
it's an
it's so
acquired taste.
it's so funny
You
that
know
you
what I
said that.
mean?
So I started a text to Owen like, "Hey, you should check out Skinamarink." And before I sent it, I was like, "No, no, I don't think I think
Not
he's
up
gonna
his
be
alley, eh?
I think he'd be like, "What the fuck do you make me watch?"
Right.
I just deleted it. I was like, "No, he's not gonna." But I agree with you. I think I don't. It's not for everyone. I mean, I think if you were like, if you're a horror movie fan, that curiosity, you should see it if you love horror movies.
Definitely.
But I
Yep.
wought recommend it to like the casual moviegoer. I mean,
Definitely not.
you know what though? If it was shorter though, I might. If it was like, dude, it's only like an hour and like 15
Okay, good
minutes,
point.
like I'd be like,
It's
yo,
just
like
lengthy.
it's not like a waste of your time. Like if you hate it, you hate it. If you like it, that's great. But yeah, I'm glad that you said that because I was just gonna tell
Mm.
that story about how I started that text and I was like, nah, nah, he's not gonna like this.
It would be
Like,
like fun just to like mess with some of your friends, be like, "Hey guys, check. I'm not going to tell you anything about this movie. Here's what we're going to sit down and watch tonight," and then throw on Skinamarink and just look at their faces like 10 minutes in and be like, "Is anything going to happen?"
well, you know, man, I already had to deal with this with like Hereditary and
Oh,
Midsommar.
fair.
Like I'm just
Um,
friends looking at me like sideways, like like whatever, guys. You guys don't get it. Like
it's
I'll, I'll
funny because
I'll die on this hill alone and say those movies are great. Like
some of the best of our
horror movies.
generation,
No, I
like
get it.
ever.
Like especially Midsommar is like a little weird, but I dug everything about it. But
Yeah,
yeah, I have to be careful now, especially with horror movies. Like who I recommend them to, and
totally.
yeah, that's I'm so glad that you set that up because I was like so
Yeah.
pumped. I was like, yeah, yeah, I'm gonna like, no, 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 no.
Yeah. Well, I'm
If
glad.
it finds it on its own, cool.
Exactly.
You can
It'll be
let me
fun to
know.
chat with people in the future about it, though, for sure.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
people that you
for
don't know
sure.
have seen it come across, be like, "Oh shit, what did you think?" Because no doubt
Yeah,
you'll be having probably just as many conversations about how people didn't like it as you will with talking to people about who did like it.
yeah,
So that's what I'm like, looking
yeah.
forward to. It also just I looked it up just before because I knew we would probably bring this up, but it's now reached just slightly over $2 million at the box office or
That's
however else it's
crazy.
generating money. Like
On a
off 15K, man, that's
15,000
impressive.
budget. Yeah, and like, and I don't even know how like what the I wonder how much profit comes from like it like streaming on like Shutter and stuff like that. If there's anything that like the filmmakers and stuff
Right.
get from that.
No doubt there must be some at least.
Yeah, I mean that's a pretty good windfall. And like you know what I do hope though, and like pretty sure they might be tempted because it's you know it's still Hollywood, even if it's a very low budget horror movie. Please don't like sequelize it or make more of them. I mean, I'm fine with like this. I'm fine with this being a standalone. Like, take your W and make another horror movie, or like
Exactly.
don't like make. I mean, as much as I
Don't.
enjoy the first three Paranormal Activities, after that I kind of like
Yeah.
majorly lost interest. So it's like, dude,
Now we're at like 7 or 8 of them. Like Jesus.
yeah, make another original creative horror film. As easy as it might be to do a sequel to Skinamarink, I implore you to let's come up with a
Yeah.
new original idea and let this like be what it is. Like, love it or hate it, whatever. Come up with a
Yeah.
new idea and see if you can like, you know, kind of get the uninitiated on your side with like another horror movie. Like, maybe they'll like your second effort. I think
Totally.
if you sequelize this, the people that were pissed off about this one are gonna be really pissed off that you made a sequel to it.
I will
And
not. I would not like that. I don't want those questions answered. I liked what I saw, and I would
yeah,
rather just like be able to come back in the future. And I'm sure this movie is going to be one that's going to, as far as horror fans go, is going to be one in our, domain for quite some
right,
time.
right.
Whether, like you said, love it or hate it, it's one that's going to be talked about for years to come, I'm sure. Yeah, I don't want anything else to do with that movie. I'd liked exactly what we got, and it works great for what it is.
Yeah, I agree, dude. I'm glad we're in agreement on that. Like, I don't know if you're
Yeah,
like
me too.
I don't know if you're thinking of like he's gonna be like that movies. Why
I wasn't sure what you thought, which I'm glad that we just saved this conversation for
yeah,
while
I
we were
like did.
recording.
All I told you was that I watched. I don't think I
Yes,
went
yeah.
into detail about
And I
like
wasn't gonna ask anything
what I
else.
thought about it. Yeah. I'm glad that we got it out here, and I mean, I'm glad that we kind of respected the same things about it. Like, it's like,
Yeah,
and like it kind of like, I mean, it also, I think it's really encouraging for like a lot of like, if you're an up and coming filmmaker to like really try and do something like this, like these kind of things, like, you know, however you can scrounge up whatever funding you can like to make your movie, like kind of take a chance and try to make something like this. Like, that's why I ultimately think it's really good to like I think it encourages other like filmmakers who are like, dude, I can do that.
absolutely.
Or something similar to that. So like,
You don't
you
need
know,
$2 million to make a movie, or however many.
exactly.
You know what I mean? You can make a movie from where he made this at his childhood home, and I think he's
Yeah.
from Edmonton, Alberta, and with
Oh yeah,
15K.
I forgot. It's like a
Yeah,
Canadian. Yeah,
that's right.
yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah,
right.
yeah.
Yep.
Big W for
It's on the
you
map.
guys.
That's right.
But
I'm
yeah, it
for
was
it.
your well. Is there a lot of horror in
Well, we
like
got Cronenberg. He's Canadian too.
Cronenberg? Yeah, yeah, right. Okay, yeah.
Other than that, horror directors, none other comes to
Awesome.
mind. So maybe I'm sure this guy, Kyle Edward Ball's future and his career are going to be under the microscope. I'm looking forward to see what he does next. I can't wait to see what he's got, and no doubt he'll have a bigger budget going
Yeah,
forward.
and by the way, guys, I'm sure there's going to be jokes about like even with the bigger budget, it might be too dark. You might not be able to see anything, or that's been
Yeah,
like the running joke with like they're going to do like more like shots in the dark where I can't see what's going on. Guys,
yeah,
that's part of generating tension. I mean, like, did its job.
totally.
I also can see why you think that looks like it was made on the cheap, but like I can see why
Yeah,
you might have that complaint. But like, I think you
it
have to
worked.
go with it. You have to go with it. It's like a
Yeah,
$15,000 movie. Like,
and I thought it aided in like the visual experience and to not knowing
yeah,
what you're looking at. And
I agree.
is there something in the shadows, or is this just the grainy footage, like, distorting my mind? I
Right.
think it played really well into the scares.
Yeah. Well,
Absolutely.
you got fans in us, Skinamarink. Like, we will voice that right here, right now.
Absolutely. In
I
your
will
corner.
I will recommend it to horror fans, casual moviegoers. Be
Maybe
leery.
not
If you
so.
go-
Yeah, exactly.
be leery if you have time and you haven't watched like five other things that you need to watch. Maybe give it a
Definitely.
shot. Like, I think it is a tough one to recommend to like to someone that
Absolutely.
wouldn't be into this. Like, it's a tough one, but I think it's a good, like I said, a good win for him as a director. Like, and like even if the talk is good or bad, like everyone's talking about your little horror movie, and it's gonna put more eyeballs on it. So
Totally.
congratulations and kudos to him. So I think that's awesome.
Good for you, Kyle.
Yes, yes, you have
Yeah.
fans here at Pax of the Blockbuster.
Absolutely. Dude, so, okay, glad I feel like cathartic having that off my chest now. I've been waiting to dive into Skinamarink for a while. So, anything else? Any other watches in this week beyond that?
uh, yeah, I won't give too much away. I've been still watching Wolfpack,
Okay,
uh,
nice.
the Paramount Plus Wolf show, not to be confused as a Teen Wolf spinoff, guys.
How far
Starring,
in now?
I'm on episode 4, and they are building
Okay.
to more stuff with the adult characters, like Sarah Michelle Gellar's character. And I always forget the guy's last name, but his first name is Rodrigo, the actor. He's like one of the two like pretty much like adult characters on the show, like main characters.
Oh, okay.
All the rest are young adults, and they are building to like more with them. and I've seen people online not really appreciating the slow burn, but I'm still interesting enough for me to be like, all right, I'm still all in on like,
Right.
but like don't land with a thud, please. Like if you're gonna make like the slow burn, please like hit me hard. Like don't like
Hmm.
let it go out with a whimper. But like I'm so far so good. I mean, it's hard for me not to support Sarah Michelle Gellar. Like
Right. That's your girl,
Buffy.
eh?
Yeah, I mean Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Like I think like for a lot of genre fans, like she gets so much mileage from like because she did that show, and then because she did I Know You Did Last Summer, because she did Scream 2, because she did The Grudge. Like she has like a big fan base in that regard from like people that just love her in that genre, and like
Right.
and she fully embraces it. And I think that's like because I think some actors would be like, oh, I did that little show or I did those little movies when I was like younger. But I think she
Hmm.
realizes that how important the show was, and like how important it was for her career, and like people still talk about Buffy so much so that they're just excited that she's on another supernatural show. Like I mean,
Yeah.
I guess when you like kind of know where your fan base is, you don't like ignore it. You like fully like accept it, and I she's done a good job with that, and I'm happy to say that the show is still pretty good. I'm not just
Great.
watching it just because of her.
And how many episodes are going to be in season one?
I believe you get 8. So like, I
Okay,
mean,
I
I
think
guess,
yeah,
I
you've
guess,
told me
I
that
guess it
before.
would, and I guess it would make sense because we're at the halfway point that they would kind of like, like raise the stakes a little bit and like kind of reveal a bit more.
Start
So like,
ramping it up. Yeah.
yeah, it felt like a good spot to do that. But yeah, I just watched that, and oh, guys, no true crime this week. I stayed away from it, so you won't have to like worry about me talking about what I watched on Hulu, like true crime wise. But I have been watching this. Like, I think I told you it's on Vice. It's called like Icons on Earth, and they basically take like they
Huh. No, I don't. That
the
doesn't ring a
first
bell.
so the first season they did like Star Wars, so they covered like A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, and then like the prequels. They
Oh,
kind of went through like the behind the scenes like making of it, and they talked to a lot of people that like worked on it. They didn't really get a lot of the actors, but they got like really important people that editors, like production designers, like all that kind of stuff to
dude,
talk
that's
about it.
awesome.
So they did the first season was on Star Wars, the second season was on The Simpsons, which was also really interesting. I mean, they
No
even
way.
I was surprised like they even like went in honestly about like the diminishing quality of the show as it's gotten older. I was like
Okay.
really like I was really surprised that they touched on that because that's what a lot of people have said. Like there is the golden age of The Simpsons, which is like
Right.
seasons 3 through like 10, or I mean depends on like how much of a fan you are. And then it's been
Right.
on for so long that it's like so like it's
Uh,
the quality's about bound to dip, and they actually commented on that. Like they've done so much,
okay.
but it's such a staple that they want to keep it around. And then like what they've been doing now for this season, they've covered the Fast and the Furious, and I saw this interesting
Okay.
because I thought it was interesting because we had like talked about the trailer and stuff, and yeah, they also are aware like Fast Four, but really with Fast Five, things took a turn in a really good financial way for them. But
Right.
they were all keenly aware. They're like, what are we doing? Like, why are we going bigger and bigger and more absurd? And they actually
Right.
really commented on the fact that like I know some fans are like, hey, like go back to basics, but they're like, how do you when you like
Yeah.
go so
Right.
far off the cliff? But like I just respected like the honesty of like people that worked on it, like to be like, yeah, we're aware of like kind of
That's
what the
cool.
franchise has become and like stuff like that. So it's really interesting.
What'd you say this was called? Because I got to recommend this for the Simpsons episode alone. I'm friends with a Simpsons mega fan who's
Oh,
definitely gonna
really?
want to check that out. What Icons of the World
No, it's called Icons on Earth.
on
And I
Earth?
will, yeah, and I actually, I'll link it at the bottom of the description for this episode for
I'm gonna
people who are
check that out
interested in
too.
checking it
Actually.
out. Star Wars one was interesting, but I've like heard so much about Star Wars, so it's hard to like find something like new in it. But the
Right.
Simpsons one, I think if your friend's like a Simpsons like fanatic, I think they would really enjoy it. And like Fast and the Furious one has been interesting. I will say this, man, it's been coming up on 10 years since Paul Walker passed away, and
Holy shit.
they talked. So when they get to Furious 7, they of course had to talk about it, and I mean this is mostly people who worked behind the scenes. They did interview Tyrese as well, but like it the way they were reacting, the way they were discussing it, some of them can even get through their interviews. It's like almost like it happened yesterday. Like it's still like a very fresh thing for a lot of people that like worked on it, because they just all had the same
Mm,
opinion that he was just like the nicest person you could like ever know. And like it was just such a
yeah.
shock to lose someone that young, and then like who had a lot more going for them. It was just like for them, I don't think time is like, it's still a very like hard, like touchy subject
Touchy
for them to
subject.
talk.
Yeah. No doubt.
Yeah,
You
and
seem
like
like that kind of guy.
Yeah, and
So
you
really,
feel
his
that.
death impacted a lot of people.
Yeah, and you feel that as a fan too. Like, I mean, I remember like they talked about the ending of Furious 7, and like they were very like wanting to be respectful to him and to his family.
Hmm.
They talked about how his older brother like doubled for him in that scene with the car where it like pulls up next to Vin Diesel's character, but they were able to use like the final shot of his face in that scene. They were able to actually like get an actual shot of Paul Walker's face from like different Fast and Furious movie and use that because
Okay,
they wanted the last image to be like really him. And it was important
nice.
that it was important that they shared that with the family too. And like I think I brought it up before. Like, where I will always respect that movie because it's like it's so absurd, but for them to take like a beat to acknowledge that and like really send him off in a very respectful way, and not just the character,
Hmm.
but like him as a performer, like
Right.
that movie. I mean, considering how like crazy it is and absurd it is,
Mm,
have that real genuine moment like that, and that they handled it really well. Like I've always like respected how they wrapped that up, and
absolutely, me too. Fear Seven
yeah,
is a friggin' thrill ride, man. That movie is still like, although like the series definitely got into the like the absurdity of
yeah,
it, it's still a really like well made like action adventure epic. Like, and James Wan, of course, like helms it wonderfully. But and then
yeah,
yeah, of course, like it ends on such a great note with Paul or Brian send off. So yeah,
yeah.
it'd be one I'd be due for a rewatch of because it's really post Furious Seven that I have like my issues with the series. But
The
I
Fate and the
think
Furious and the
yeah.
no.
God. But I
No.
think in the future, looking back, I will probably appreciate if I just really lean in and embrace the absurdity. I think I might enjoy those movies more. It's just as
Yeah,
they come out and I'm trying to take them serious, and then they are what they are. It kind of like disenfranchises me a little bit from them. But again, like hindsight's
yeah.
2020. Going back, knowing what I know now, I think they might be a little bit more fun.
Yeah, I mean, and we have time because this comes out in May. I think it'd be really fun to like revisit them on the show. Like, like I mean,
True.
of course, the more absurd it is, the more like absurd we're going to be talking about it, and it'll be funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, it'll be really fun to like kind of look back on those and be like, God, you guys went from like stealing DVD players to like to like this, like you went to
Yeah,
space. Cool.
actually, I picked up a Blu-ray of the first one. It's the only one I own. Is So I picked up a Blu-ray of the Fast and Furious like a few months ago, and I will most definitely be throwing that in.
Yeah,
Probably, I'm sure I'll go see Fast and just for for the hell of it, and I'll probably
yeah,
I'd like to get a rewatch of the first one in because it's like the same skeleton as one of my favorite '90s movies, Point Break, and I love Point Break, and I
right.
love the first one, so I'll definitely try and
Nice.
make some time to get that one in
Yeah, and
soon.
I'll end it with this one because I keep doing this to you, like not on purpose. Whenever there's the bi-weekly week where we have like the spinoff, I also
Yeah.
watched something for this week. I can't tell you what it is because
Oh man.
this episode comes out first. I swear I'll start remembering to tell you before we go live.
Your
It's
pick this week?
Owen's pick, and it's
Okay.
really I'll just say it's a really funny one. It was really good. It was like
Okay.
I
I
hadn't
can't
watched
wait.
it in a really long time, and it was a really good one. And I think what I like about the spinoff so far is that we've chosen completely different movies from one movie to the next. Like
Yeah.
it's been like all over the place, but it's really been fun to like kind of explore these different things again. Sometimes in my case, never having seen it or being a while
Right.
since I've seen it, and the same for him with certain things. But yeah, like going from like what we did last week to this week, it's like a hard right. So like
Okay.
it's
Right
good.
on.
Yeah, but
I'm glad
it
you
was
bring this
good.
up though, because I was yesterday I was skiing. I have a mountain like within like probably 45 minutes to an hour from here. And that's like really the only ski hill around New
Nice.
Brunswick that you can get to within a day. But so I was up there. I actually just went up solo. I met some buddies up there a few hours after I'd been there. But long story short, I'm a big skier. That's my winter hobby. I haven't really made it up yet. We've not had a lot of snow over here, so snow doesn't really hit the ground until January. We're only a month and a half into the season, but I just haven't found the time to get up. So I went up by myself, and I thought, what better thing to listen to? Cruising down the mountain by myself and deep dive episode. So I was a little behind, but I watched your episode on Better Luck Tomorrow, and man, it really wanted me to watch that movie. It was
Nice.
an awesome listen.
Yeah, we got a review on Apple Podcasts specifically talked about that episode, and I will say like with this show, it's not like what we say like with you and I as planned, but there's beats like we are going to cover this story and that story, right?
Right.
So
Yep.
with the spinoff though, like we kind of like do we want to like say like we're covering this part, or do you want it to be more organic and just have it be a conversation? And
I like that it's organic.
we opted with like just making it a conversation. So the person that left the review thought it was just really good that we touched on the what the representation in that movie meant at the time for having
Mm-hmm.
like having a lead Asian American cast, because that's not something that was happening a lot, and they really like thought it was just really good that we touched on it, and then we talked about it in a very like
Oh,
mature
good.
way, and like
Mm-hmm.
I like when that episode was done, I was like, I didn't really tell him that I was going to talk about that part of it, but he was just able to kind of pick it up, and like we were able to have like a mature discussion about it, and like what that meant for like my friend Kyle, who was Asian at the time, when we saw it when we were like
Yeah.
17 or 18, like, you know, it for me while talking about it, it took me back to like that moment seeing it with him, because it was so
Mhm.
like important for him to see. He
Right.
was all in hypes for that movie, because it was like he was seeing himself, and like
Totally.
that's important. That's important. So yeah, I'm glad that it made you want to see it, and
Your conversation was just great to listen to. Both of you just had a lot of interesting points to bring up. I think it was you that brought up the Roger Ebert thing about him saying that they can make
yeah,
whatever movies they want. I thought that was so cool. Didn't even
yeah,
know that he would have like been watching that movie at that time. So like that was just a super neat little tidbit as well.
yeah. There is actually, I think there is video of that on YouTube. He actually like
Oh,
gets up and like says what he says, and like basically like they don't owe you anything. Like, like
yeah.
that's like such
What
a
a gem that guy was, man.
yeah, that's I mean that's such an and that probably made Justin Lin and everyone involved with that movie probably so happy and so proud. I mean, I think you heard during the episode like they were like willing to give them more money if they made the cast like Caucasian, and he was
Yeah.
like no, and
Good for him, man.
he maxed out all his credit cards, and then when that ran out of money, he got money from MC Hammer, which is like the funniest thing.
Yeah, 10 grand, dude.
The
The
grand from MC Hammer.
Owen's moment there, man, actually killed me. He was like, can't touch this or like that.
Yeah,
Was funny.
yeah. So like, and kudos to independent filmmakers, and like getting it done. This reminds me just like the Skinamarink thing again. Like scrounge up whatever money you can to make your movie, and then also in his case, not compromising himself and like being like, no, this is not the movie I want to make. This is the movie I want to make, and staying true to that.
Right.
So I
Those are the
thought that was
stories
really
you want to
cool.
hear. That was
Yeah.
really inspiring, and it was a great episode. And I had like Owen said, he was not aware of that movie. I did not know anything about it. Thought the cast was stacked. Like really cool to see where those cast members have gone in like the 20 years since
Yeah.
that movie. So it's one I'm going to put on my radar. Actually, just out of curiosity, how would someone like me be able to like come across that? Like, is it on streaming that you know
So
of?
I
I got to
can
order a DVD.
I can maybe help you. So
Perfect.
I have I was able to watch it because I have Amazon Prime, but I have like the Stars add-on, so
Oh,
you can
okay.
actually watch it for free when you like sign in through that. So like
Oh, I can do that. Nice.
that's one option for you to do. Then
Okay.
of course then it's available to rent like on different like platforms and stuff.
Okay.
But yeah, yeah, that was a fun one to revisit, and I just love how cool it is that that is like Han's origin story. Like he was like, yeah,
I thought
Han,
that was sick.
that Han is that same Han. And I was like, that's so cool. I can see it. It works.
Just a
So
little
yeah,
cherry on top of that movie
well,
for sure.
yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, did you watch anything else, or did you want to jump
Yeah,
into a couple? Wherever
there
you want
was
to.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So besides, this is something I want to touch on. Kind of taking things back to Marvel because the only other movie I watched besides Skinamarink, which now we've got that conversation out of there, was really the big thing I wanted to touch on. But I watched Blade, the 1998 Blade movie with Wesley Snipes. Have you seen that movie, or what's your experience with Blade?
So I watched it. Last time I watched it was 2 years ago. I watched all three of them back to back
Oh,
because I
okay,
have because I've seen them all before. I love. I mean, I think the first one in and of itself is kind of was a game changer at the time. Like it really like
big
even
time.
though it made money, it didn't make a ton of money, but it made enough for the Marvel to be like, okay, we can like do something with our properties a bit, and like so I think
Totally.
it's important in that regard. I love the second one so much more though. Like I think Guillermo del Toro
Mm,
Blade 2 is like so good. Blade Trinity, I
mhm.
tend to mention. I just like kind of forget it exists.
Kind of
It's just
forget. Yeah, that seems to be
it's
the general consensus. I actually haven't seen them either. Me and Cam, we got in the first two Blades. Must have been last year, maybe a year and a half ago, because I had never seen them. And like we were on this big, we are on the big Guillermo del Toro run, and so like it
yeah.
just made sense to watch Blade before Blade Two. So I got those in, and then we just decided there's no point in seeing Blade Trinity, and I still haven't seen it to this day. I just have no interest. Even the poster is enough to steer me away, to be
Yeah,
honest.
that movie is the biggest like obvious attempt to be like, all right, like it's not enough to have Wesley Snipes. Let's bring in like young people. Maybe we can get more young people to watch it. Like got Jessica Biel at like the height of her like like gorgeous beauty,
Yeah,
right? Have
for
her
sure.
and get that funny guy from like that because at the time Ryan Reynolds was like the funny guy. Like, get that
Exactly.
guy. Like let him quip his way through it and like maybe the kids will love that. It's everything
Right.
about it. It's so like I'm not saying it's like completely kid friendly, but it's definitely not the hard R that like Blade or Blade 2 is completely like different. You could tell they were trying to make it more commercial and like and
Why?
that's why Wesley Snipes was not happy when he made it. There are legendary stories about how he was quite the asshole while making Blade
On
Trinity.
set?
You know,
Absolutely.
yeah, so like
Is it
yeah,
Blade Trinity that all his like crazy antics come from, like in leaving like, or is he like that on all the set? Because I know, like, I
no,
think the
I've only heard about it on Blade Trinity.
okay,
And you know, and honestly, like people like Jessica Biel, Ryan Reynolds, and Oswald, he has a part in it. They all kind of confirmed
oh,
that, like, some of them are nicer. Like Jessica Biel was just like wasn't the easiest person to work with. It was her kind of like, and then Pat Oswalt was
okay,
just very, very upfront. Like we couldn't look him in the eye, and he just wouldn't deliver certain lines when he didn't want to, and like we could only do
right.
this. It was just like total like diva moment. But I think he was upset because like they were infiltrating his. That's not the movie he wanted to make, and like yeah, you should be
I totally understand that.
more professional, more mature, of
Yeah,
course. But I
but
think
he's
he
Wesley
kind of felt
fucking
like
Snipes. He does what he wants.
there you go. I fucking love you said that. Like they were encroaching on his baby. So like like
That's right.
and so yeah, and he he's in the end he's right. It wasn't good. So
Yeah, no,
there
he
you have
was
it.
right. I think that little tidbit of him like leaving notes around set, like addressing himself as Blade, is like so funny to me
Yeah.
and so like pretentiously like just such a typical Hollywood ego that like, but not really
It's
crossing that
it
line.
seemed
It's
like
just so funny.
something it seemed like something that would be written for a movie that's making fun of people making movies. It doesn't feel like a real
Absolutely.
a real moment, but nah, he did that.
Yeah.
He
And let me
definitely did
just
that.
say he is such a treat in the first one. Like I was trying to think of like some lines that I wanted to bring up off the top of my head. I can't think of any. I was like kind of like half asleep. This is like a late night watch. I just decided to
Yeah.
throw it on because I was feeling like something. Like his delivery, his persona in that movie is just so tough as nails. It's like oh 90s it hurts that movie. Like there's things like, but I wouldn't say I love Blade, but like there is a lot to love about that movie, and it's like in like a I guess like a golden era of Marvel movies, right in between like post 80s, pre MCU. There's like some
Right.
good Marvel movies in there that I wish the studio these days would kind of harken back to those way that they made the movies back then, instead of like a lot of
Yeah.
like just commercial, easy, agenda pushing sort of movies that they make these days that just try to appeal to as many people as possible. Like you mentioned numbers with Blade. I just like took the liberty to look at it because I was curious myself. Like this isn't like MCU numbers, but
This
all
is like
accounts
but
was a
early
winner.
days though. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So it made for 45 million, which is like pretty modest. Like, I mean, that's a good budget, especially by today's standards. We see
Yeah.
less of those. In the US, it grossed 70 million. So it made some
Okay.
money. It's not, didn't knock it out of the park, but that is nothing to be upset about. And then worldwide made 131 million. Like, that's a winner
Yeah.
financially. And like
Yeah.
that, movies like that, art rated, like violent, gory Marvel properties were making money. And I wish they would kind of like take a step back from like the kid like
If
kind
yeah.
of appeal to them these days because those movies still worked. Also, it's features like its two most seen cast members are African American, and it doesn't mention that as a point at all, and it just works seamlessly. And like nowadays, especially like I don't know when this would have started happening, but Disney and Marvel, when they do things like this, they really bring attention to it in a way that just doesn't seem like you're genuinely giving opportunities to these people. It's like they want the credit for doing it,
Yeah.
whereas like in this era, is what it
They're like,
was, and
pat us
it
on the
worked
back, pat us on the
fantastically.
back, please.
Exactly, and that just bothers me, and you
Yeah.
can just tell that they're so not transparent with it. And so
Right.
I just really appreciated that, and the fact that it just didn't have to be something that was brought up. It just is what it was. Blade is an awesome character, and I'm still, my grievances with Marvel aside, I'm looking forward to the next year's Blade interpretation because I love
Yeah.
Marshall Ali. What do you? Or I
My
guess there's maybe things for us to be looking
my
forward to, but what are you
only
thinking?
concern, and I hope they change their mind. They are really
Rating?
pushing this PG-13 rating. You have Deadpool 3 being rated R, then make Blade rated R.
That's what I'm
Like
saying.
it's like I mean, maybe you can make a good PG-13 Blade MCU, but like
Well,
I don't I think you take a that's what makes the first one, I mean the first two so good because it doesn't hold back on any of that stuff.
F bombs and gore all over the place. It was awesome
Yeah. I also
for a
want to
Marvel movie.
a credit to like how the money it did make. A lot of people didn't know who Blade was. So I mean that's a good I mean the fact that like it wasn't like he wasn't like a top tier like Marvel character where everyone was like, "Oh yeah, I know who that guy is." So
Mm,
that's the fact that they made money on like it was a gamble that kind of tested on an unknown property, really. And then I guess
yeah, definitely.
and I think after that they were like, okay, so they felt more confident when they did X-Men. They're like, okay, we can do X-Men, and then they felt
Mm,
really confident when they did the first Spider-Man. So like they were like, all right, we start small, and then we gonna build up to it.
right.
And I love that movie. It's the only thing I like Steven Dorff in, I think.
It's funny because I honestly like he's as an actor is good in it. I feel like the I don't think this is the right way to say the worst part, but the villain in Blade, like Steven Dorff's character, isn't like my big takeaway from that movie. I feel like it's one of the weaker points, only because it's a product of its time. It's very 90s in the sense that he's got like that boy band haircut. He's not a very intimidating guy. Some of his dialogue
He's
just
so
comes across
small.
as like,
It's like,
yeah, he is, man. He's like a twig. And just
yeah,
kind of coming across as like a angsty teen in the sense that like he's amongst these other like very old ancient vampires that
right,
command authority and respect, and he's like the new kid on the block that's like kind of angsty, and he's got
yeah.
this like in sync haircut. I like him in it though, but it's like
It's very
that
much
is very much a
of
90s
its
movie.
time. It very much you
Yeah,
can
of its
tell.
time.
That's when you can tell when it was based on
Yeah,
like Steven Dorff's
exactly. It
like
ages it a bit,
emo hair.
but he's good. But he is
Uh,
good. I don't know him much from anything else, but he
I
is.
know him from complaining a lot now. He like has a lot to say about
Yeah.
he has a lot to say about Marvel now, and like it's just like, dude.
He
I
had that
mean, it's
quote recently, didn't he?
yeah, like I mean, first he like this is a while back he kind of dissed Black Widow and blah blah blah, and then he kind of backtracked on that because he was like, "I'm really good friends with Scarlett Johansson. I didn't mean it that way." He tried to like
Oh,
backpedal,
okay.
but then he started talking shit about the new. Now, granted, he mentioned one thing that
Yeah,
I'm
I saw
concerned
your
about,
post on that.
which is the PG-13 rating. I am concerned about that, but he's also like talking shit on the filmmakers, and they're not gonna be able to get it right. We already did it right when we did it like in 98, whatever the movie came out.
98,
Yeah.
that's right.
So I was like, dude, just
Good year for movies.
let them have their moment. Like you've
Let's
had
let's
yours.
try it at least before. Yeah,
Let
that's
them
a good
try it.
point. Don't
Yeah,
let stuff in the past.
I also too, I know like as we should, a lot of credit is given to Black Panther and what that did, having like a predominantly like African American cast. But
Love this point.
I also think that you should also give Blade and Wesley Snipes their flowers because like
Credit.
dude, like I mean like
Yeah.
credit for it because like that was unheard of really to have like a lead African American actor leading a movie like that. And yeah, granted, it's a $45 million movie, but it's still a comic book movie, and like
Yep.
wasn't going on a lot then. And and I don't want to take anything away from Black Panther because I know that moment is also very important, and like I guess on a larger scale because it's like ensemble cast that's like mostly African American, but like
Yep.
a lot. But I did love seeing when Black Panther was coming out. A lot of people were like, "Hey, like give Wesley Snipes
Laid some credit.
credit,
Yeah.
some credit." Yeah, like yeah. So like I think that's also important to mention.
Absolutely. I love that you say that because it really doesn't. Maybe by audiences that were aware of it at the time it came out, but it feels like the younger generation that, and it's not nothing against them if they don't know it, they're not from the time, but it really deserves and should command some more respect. It did it first and it did it well, and it didn't Disney execs blow it all over social media and say, "Look at what we're doing." It did amazingly.
Yeah, I agree. I couldn't agree more. So I guess since we were talking about Marvel,
Mm,
we can blow through some news real quick.
yeah, definitely.
It's not like it's not a lot of earth shattering stuff,
No, it was
but
quiet.
some interesting things. The Marvels, the day that Ant opens, I don't know if it's just me being cynical, but I took it like Ant-Man opens, it gets like kind of piss poor reviews, and then they announced that
Right.
they were moving Marvels, which is the sequel to Captain Marvel, from July 28th to November 10th. Now, part of me was like, we need to move this to make sure it's right. We can't have like a clunker in the mix. We have too many clunkers. Like, I mean, we have two
Right.
official clunkers in Eternals and Ant-Man that actually are rotten on Rotten Tomatoes. But then I was like, when I read the story more, it's better release date November 10th because it's Veterans Day. It's that weekend, so it's a holiday weekend.
Okay.
It's also the very same weekend that they released Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, so it could be a good weekend for
Okay.
them release it instead of like the late July. I mean, there's a lot of stuff coming out this summer, so there was a ton of competition too. I
I'm
think it,
thinking,
I think
like
it does.
Oppenheimer. Oh my god,
Yeah, that
I
looks
cannot wait for
amazing. Yeah,
that. I wouldn't want to compete against Chris Nolan at the box office. That's for sure.
yeah, I wouldn't either. I mean, I think my head thought this was a bigger move than what it was. Like, oh, are you guys scared? But no, I don't think it's. I don't think it was that.
No.
I think it ends up being
Okay.
a better financial decision, and then also like you have Guardians of the Galaxy come out in May, and if you had this coming out in July, there might be we've talked about like the Marvel fatigue thing a bit,
Fatigue.
having them
I can
come
see
out too
that.
close, having them come out too close together. So this creates more space, and I think that'll work out. I mean, oh god, I can't. When this movie comes out, I'll have to cover it. I like Brie Larson. I like Brie Larson like a lot.
Okay.
I respect the fact that she speaks her mind and doesn't give a shit about what anyone has to say. But man,
I
like
can.
fanboys, internet nerds, I'm making fun of you, but like they don't like her, and like
Right.
they say the most. When I ever I there's a story I read about her, I like dread to read the comments, and it's so like you know
She's not got the
I
best rep, that's for sure.
she's a bit polarizing, but I also respect someone who's like, I'm gonna say what I want to say and I'm gonna say it. So like she like isn't afraid to do that. I think she's a good actress too. I mean, I just like I think her as an actress.
She's got the coveted Oscar on her name, so I mean,
Yeah,
gotta give her
yeah.
credit for
So like,
that.
yeah, put some respect on her. Maybe like go a little bit easy on her. Like, oh god, we're gonna have to deal with it with Fast 10 because she's in that. Like, so we're gonna have to like hear about her. We're gonna have to hear about her then too.
We
Yeah,
will.
yeah. I mean, think that this move is like more of a financial thing rather than like
You know
you're
what?
worried about the quality
I don't
thing.
know. I'm sure you're right. Like, there's definitely no doubt they were considering that. They want to position the movie in the place that it's, gonna do the best financially. I honestly didn't really on being pushed back. I didn't really have any context to really form an opinion. I'm not really sure. I didn't know if this was something if they're gonna do some editing or do some reshoots and just touch it up a little bit. I didn't know if that might have been an influence. I
Yeah,
haven't heard anything.
they
So
didn't really mention it. It didn't really mention anything about doing shoots or anything. Now the interesting thing though will debut the weekend after Dune Part Two, and I
oh
guess like I mean I'm sure Dune Part Two will have a big opening weekend. I don't know how like it'll do in its second week competing with that. I mean I still think that's kind of risky, stiff competition
that's
a little bit.
risky. Yeah.
And then it also comes out the same weekend as Hunger Games: The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, which is like
Oh, people are gonna go see that.
yeah, so like now granted this is like an unproven thing. It's not like it's like I think it works as like a prequel or something, or I forgot they're really
I think
doing
it
this
is a
one.
prequel. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's not, of course this is not the Jennifer Lawrence movies that we were familiar with, but that's still competition. I mean, I I mean, but Marvel kind of can be untouchable, and like, and if it is a good movie, then maybe that won't matter. But yeah, it's interesting because on July 28th, it's funny because I think you had it in our like notes for like some of the theme episodes. Uh,
Yeah.
July 28th will now be occupied by Haunted Mansion. They're moving that there. Uh,
I didn't know that
like
was done. Oh,
so they're putting that there. So like I think that's so like it's safe for like hey it's summer the kids are out go see it. Like I mean like that makes I don't
can't
know how I
I
feel
can't
about
help.
it.
I feel a certain way about it. I can't believe they're not like weren't slating a haunted mansion for like a September October release. That just makes so much sense to
Taking
me.
advantage of
Disney,
like the Halloween. I
yeah,
don't know, like yeah. I mean, even, I know it's
that
not like a
would.
scary movie, but it's like a fun. It
But for kids, it's
reminds me of like the first Goosebumps I think came out around October. Like
yeah,
so
exactly.
that
Oh
like
man,
so that makes
I
that
love
yeah.
Goosebumps.
I don't get why they didn't take advantage of that either. But
I yeah, I was a big fan of the first, like the original Haunted Mansion growing up. I don't remember much about it now, but I know I saw it a million times as a kid. But like, I can't help but feel like that's another one of those examples where it's creative bankruptcy in Disney and Hollywood. Like that is such a beloved, well, not beloved, like it's not best reviews, but like a pretty decent like Disney classic, like one I
yeah,
really have fond memories of. But like, I don't think that one needed a reboot or didn't need the
yeah.
IP touched again. But I'll give it a chance, see what people are
Well,
saying about it when it comes out.
it
But
is
yeah,
Disney.
interesting release date.
It is Disney.
It
They
is
feel like
Disney.
I feel like they just like they're like they look through their IP. They're like,
Yeah.
what
What can we
can
do?
we remake? What can we make a live action movie that makes sense? Like I think it's crazy that they're doing a live action Lilo and Stitch. Like is it? I was like, it's just gonna be ET. So I was like, so like why like
Just got
it?
cast in that the other day.
Oh,
Jack.
was it Zach Galifianakis? Oh, was it
Yeah,
him?
no, yeah, it
It
was.
was
I was
Zach
gonna
Galifianakis.
say I
Yeah,
had
yeah,
Jack. Yeah, I had Jack
yeah.
Black in my head, but no, it was Zach Galifianakis.
Same
That's right.
thing, same but different.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
Oh
like
man.
yeah, Disney is notorious for that. I don't know. I mean, it makes some money, I guess, but Jesus Christ, I just wish they wouldn't sometimes.
Oh,
Uh,
sad. Me
yeah,
too.
you guys can go all see the Marvels, the sequel to Captain Marvel. I forgot that Captain Marvel made like 1.1 billion dollars worldwide. So
Yeah, that's
as
crazy,
much as
right?
people hate her, they still rushed out to go see it.
Yeah.
So it's gonna have a lot to live up to. I mean, Kevin Feige said that Marvel's what he's seen of it reminds him of the first Avenger. So that's a lot of it's a little pressure, I guess,
Okay.
to put on. I mean, I wish people wouldn't say that sometimes. Like just like movie come out,
I
don't
know
generate don't
it can
generate in advance to like hype us up. Like
exactly. It doesn't
celebrities.
necessarily always translate to what you want it to. Sometimes hype,
Exactly.
can
Yeah,
destroy.
I agree.
Hmm.
But I guess they gotta hype up whatever they need to hype up. So who am I?
Yeah,
Who am I?
exactly.
Who am I? I mean, they're very successful Marvel and Disney, so who am I to begrudge them
That's right.
overhyping their films? Whatever.
Totally.
um,
I'm wondering if this would be a good actually, no, I'll let you
yeah,
go
yeah, no,
first before I
no,
say what I'm going to say.
no, go
I
ahead.
was going to say might be a good time to segue into a little experiment, a little game that
Okay.
I came across. I thought would be fun to try out for our listeners. I wish I could be able to give credit to this person that I saw do this for the first time. I don't know if it was his original idea, but more or less, long story short, saw a guy on TikTok doing he was posing to the audience if they could guess the movie by the tagline. I thought that was a cool idea to maybe do on the show. So off screen, we gathered a few movie taglines. They're going to throw a couple at each other and see if we can't guess it in like maybe a 10-second shot clock or something. Get it in a couple guesses and see how we do
I'm
with
gonna
our
feel
movie
so embarrassed
tagline.
if I'm gonna be like, I'm gonna like probably lose all my movie cred with
I
this,
don't know, right?
with this game.
Absolutely. I'm
Um,
just excited to see. Like
it's gonna
sometimes
be
I've come
really
across
fun.
many that I exactly. There's a lot out there that I associate with a movie, but like they can kind of describe and give you a little bit of a hint as to what movie it is. So I thought that would be fun to try out. So I go first. You want me to go first?
Shit. I'll let you go first.
Okay. I'm gonna go. So I'll throw out three. Maybe we'll all go three. You go three.
Okay.
All right. The first one, I only picked this one because it's a movie that I'd seen recently. It's probably going to be a hard start, so no pressure. It is an old. I'll just give you a hint. It's a '70s movie, so I'll just
Oh
give you
shit.
that. So many movies out there, but this one, the tagline is, "This is the weekend they didn't play golf."
Fuck. Oh, there goes my movie streak.
Oh
No, is it Caddyshack? No, is it Caddyshack?
no, it's not Caddyshack, which I
Fuck,
haven't
fuck,
seen.
fuck, 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 fuck.
Eh. The movie is Deliverance. Have you seen Deliverance?
Oh, I have seen Deliverance. I only remember
Yeah,
the tagline. Well, oh fuck.
I didn't even recognize it until I was scrolling through these. I was like, that's a good one because that
All right.
not a lot of golf in that movie, a lot of backwoods debauchery though for sure. That movie for
Definitely.
people that haven't seen it is awesome. The next one I thought was just too awesome and clever to not mention and a little bit more modern. Definitely one I would have think you've seen. But the tagline is he's in town with a few days to kill.
Oh shit. Oh my god. I hate you, Jackson.
Give you a few more seconds. It's hard. It's hard. It's fun though.
Damn it, I don't know.
He's in town with a few days to kill. Once you hear it, you'll be like, oh, that makes
I'm
him
gonna be so, I'm
clever.
gonna be so mad, aren't I?
You
All right, tell
ready?
me. Yeah, I'm ready.
It's Predator 2.
Fuck! Really? Oh, that
Which
makes
is like
no way.
everything.
God.
Yeah, that's right. I didn't want to give that away though. But I thought that was great. And what last one I had not heard of, maybe a little more of a standout. This one's tagline is same make, same model, new mission.
Oh wait. Oh, damn it. Sure. Oh god, is it term? No. What fuck? Ugh.
And we've talked about this guy. I'll give you that.
Fuck. I'm like second guessing myself. That's why.
What do you? I mean, throw out a couple of options. It don't matter if you get it in the first try.
Not RoboCop, is it?
You're not far off.
Some other robot. Like
Well,
Terminator.
you're
Terminator. Oh, it's one. It's not the. No, it's gotta be one of the sequels, right?
you're right. It's Judgment Day. That's T2.
Is that not
Same make,
Judgment
same
Day?
model. Yeah.
We were talking
I thought that one was awesome.
yesterday. I feel like such a.
And we've been talking about Chris Cameron. That's why not. Oh yeah, I mean harder than it looks, but I thought no doubt a fun game. So if you got any you want to throw by me, I'm probably gonna be in the same boat as you.
All right, all right. So now I'll throw at you. This summer, Terror won't be taking a vacation.
Terror won't be taking a vacation.
It's a horror movie.
You don't say. Oh, future. If we do this again, we should establish some hints or something, or give it some hints. I'm gonna go with like I don't think this is the movie that it is because I feel like it's got a more famous tagline, but for whatever reason, Jaws comes to mind.
Not Jaws, but I hate that this is the tagline for this movie. It's for Halloween
Okay.
H2O. Uh,
Oh,
yeah, it's
oh,
a really awful tagline because they released it in August, when the year it came out, and
Okay.
it really has
Weird.
I feel zero to do with the movie. Like
Yeah,
it's
I've
a
already
random
got that.
random tagline, but yeah, it's a really really bad tagline.
Okay.
All right.
Wouldn't have guessed that.
Second one. In the game of seduction, there is only one rule: never fall in love.
Hmm.
I feel
The
like an
game
asshole
of
because I'm like
seduction.
I feel like an asshole because I feel like I'm picking movies from like when I was like the ripe age to remember these.
I haven't seen this one, so like yeah, I could this could be so far off, but like True Lies comes to mind.
It is Cruel Intentions.
Cruel
Uh,
Intentions. I haven't seen that one either. Who's in
oh,
that?
Sarah Michelle Gellar, Ryan Phillippe, and Reese Witherspoon and Selma Blair are in it.
Oh my God, what a
it's a
cast.
it's a modern teen like remake of Dangerous Liaisons. Uh, so
Oh,
like
okay.
Sarah Michelle Gellar and Ryan Phillippe are stepbrother stepsister.
Ooh,
They
seduction comes into
That's
play.
what they are like. He is known for
Oh,
being he's known for being a player and like taking advantage of women. She to the public is very like prim and proper, like very much the like important person at her school, but she's secretly a really bitchy person. Also like
okay,
also sleeps around and she kind of like toys around with sleeping around with him, and like
okay.
Reese Witherspoon's character is new to the school. She's the headmaster's daughter, and it's a bet that he won't be able to her virginity. And if he
Oh
does,
my God.
yeah, if he does, he doesn't do it, then she gets his 1956 Jaguar Roadster, which is like his favorite car, like it's his most prized
Oh
possession.
God, that is a mission and a
And
half.
if he does take her virginity, he gets to sleep with his stepsister. Now that
Jesus,
even though
what a synopsis of a movie.
dude, that was pretty freaking racy. When we were
Yeah,
in like 1999, we thought we were like
you
seeing like
don't get that these days.
the most like dirty thing we could possibly see. We were like,
Mm.
oh, like
You know, the
good movie
first
though.
movie that popped into my head with that tagline, honestly, was Robert Zemeckis' Allied. That's kind of seemed evocative of that, which I love that
That
movie.
actually seems like a pretty good one. I would have taken that
Yeah,
guess. This is
but I
actually
didn't
a
think that
lot
was what it
hard.
was. But
I think do I pay
isn't it
attention to
hard?
like yeah, but I'm wondering now, do I pay attention? I thought I paid attention to taglines. Like, sometimes some of them are really ridiculous and funny.
Right. I found that
Um,
I have not, other than like the really famous ones. But
all
what's the
right.
last one you got?
This last one. To understand the origin of evil, you must go back to the beginning.
Is that Ouija?
No.
Oh, oh,
this is kind of hard. It's Red Dragon, which is the prequel
oh,
to Silence of the
nice.
Lambs.
I love Red Dragon.
Like in the 80s they made like Manhunter, which is what Red Dragon was, and then of all people, Brett Ratner directed Red Dragon and actually made it good. Uh,
Yeah,
and the reason they did it, of course, they had Anthony Hopkins now in the role to play Hannibal Lecter because Brian Cox played him in
Michael
Manhunter.
Mann's Manhunter,
So
right? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. So it was able to have like a full trilogy, I guess, with Anthony Hopkins. It's a surprisingly good movie. Like I said, I'm very surprised that Brett Ratner. I believe that everyone in that movie is so talented that it didn't matter that Brett Ratner directed it.
Yeah, exactly.
Just all brought their A game and was like, yo, you can be kind of mediocre and we'll handle it.
I totally forgot that he helmed that movie. Yeah,
Yeah,
never would have guessed that.
good game. I kind of feel. I mean, I do agree that we probably should give each other a chance, but like, it did drive home the fact that some of them don't really feel like they have anything to do with the movie, or like they kind
No,
of throw you off,
absolutely. It's
or
interesting.
they kind of throw you off. And I promise when we do this again, I will earn some of my like. I'm just gonna go through all my movies, like looking at taglines, just like
Yeah, there you go. So we're both over 3, but nothing to say about your cred. I mean, these are just these. It's a hard
hard.
game, and the ones that this guy put on that TikTok like were pretty mainstream. That there was plenty I got and plenty I didn't get, but we'll try and make it a little easier going
All
forward.
right,
But that was fun.
we'll both be better guys. We promise.
And on another note, this is just something we have not, I don't know how this has not come up between us. I thought I would save this question just so we could have a genuine uh, convo about it. So I've pretty much gathered your favorite show of all time is Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Is that right?
Yeah,
Right. I don't know what I would say mine is, but I was just curious what your favorite movie was. And I know what kind of question that is as a cinephile, especially someone like you or me and, other people that do what we do, that it can
yeah,
change on a dime. Maybe you have 15 favorite movies like I do, but what like
right.
comes to mind right now is like your favorite movie. I don't know if you ever had the chance
Um,
to talk about it.
yeah. So like, we did like an anniversary episode for it, and my explanation for why like an argument to be made that like say something like Goodfellas is a better movie or this is a better movie, but this is more like a
Sure.
personal like feeling after watching it.
That's how it should be. That's what I mean.
So for me, still like I don't. There's a lot of reasons why I feel the way I do after I watch it, but and it's weird because I don't really gravitate to all of his films, but like 25th Hour is still to me like I
Okay.
still like stays with me a lot. I can remember when I first saw it when he came out in the like late 2002, and we were not. It wasn't like it's crazy because like it has a really stacked cast, but it kind of got like bumped in like December, like hoping it would catch on for like award season, and for whatever reason it didn't. But like
Okay.
a lot of people consider it not necessarily Spike Lee's best movie, but they say his most accessible to like if you are like a casual moviegoer, because
Okay.
he Spike Lee can get a lot of flack sometimes because a lot of people think that his movies have like an agenda. There's like kind of message attached to it. There's nothing
For
like
sure.
that in 25th Hour, and like it stars like Edward Norton, Barry Pepper, Philip Seymour Hoffman, Rosario Dawson,
Oh
and
my gosh.
Anna Paquin, and Brian Cox, and it's based on the book, and basically the story is like this Edward Norton's like last day with his like friends and family before he goes to spend 7 years in prison. And what is I mean, acting is all really good, the writing is really good, but there's all these like technical flourishes that make it. Terrence Blanchard's score for that movie is so underrated and one of the most beautiful pieces of music I've ever heard in any movie. Like it like
Love
gets
that.
like so much emotion out of you. And I like that he doesn't shy away from using music either. Like it kind of intensifies like so many moments in the film.
Okay.
I also respect the fact that this was the first movie to film in New York City after 9/11, and
Oh,
this part of it is not in the book, but Spike Lee was like, I can't make a movie set in New York City and have it be in New York City where that didn't happen. So like at the backdrop, and not in a very like heavy-handed way, but the backdrop is like this city that's also recovering from what happened with 9/11, and it kind of is like
right.
juxtaposed like what he's going through and like where he is like broken, can he recover, like there's all that kind of stuff that's
Okay.
working together within like the actual story. And like I think it was a very brave thing to do to not ignore it.
Yeah.
And it really, New York City becomes a character in itself in that movie. Like it's
Right on.
yeah, and like the last like won't give it away, but the last 15 minutes are like truly like really emotional, and it's really due to like Brian Cox being an amazing fucking actor and delivering a very
Brian
very
Cox. I don't know if you
yeah
mentioned him. I fucking love
yeah
Brian Cox, dude.
he delivers this monologue that closes the movie, and it's like gets me every time. I tear up every time. It's like
I'm
so
gonna keep an eye open for that and try and get that in sometime because that sounds
yeah
awesome. Honestly, I've never seen it. Heard of
yeah
it, but don't really know much anything about it.
it's so good. I like highly recommend it.
And I'm pretty sure I watched your guys' episode or listened rather to that episode, but maybe I didn't. But I don't
Yeah,
remember.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you like, if you do happen to watch it and you go back and listen to that, like kind of like it's like it. I don't know. Like I did that one with AC because he loves the movie too, and like he like
Okay.
they wanted to talk about it, and like we kind of had the same feelings like about it. Like like it makes you feel like when it's watching it, and then when it's over, like it. I don't know why specifically it stays with me, but it has stayed with me ever since I saw it. And like when I
Right
watch it,
on.
it really feels like I've seen it so many times, but it always feels like I'm watching it for the first time and feeling that feeling like all over again. Like it never gets old. Never gets
Yeah.
old.
That should definitely be the hallmark of like a favorite movie. I have any like that as well. And one of those like movies that you can come back to at any given time and throw on. Like there's nothing
Yeah.
like that. Like not every movie can do that. So that's a great choice or a great pick. I will absolutely love to watch that sometime.
Yeah. Well, what about yeah, I'm not like you said. This it's all changes, right? Because like tomorrow you might think
Yeah.
of something different. Like
Yeah, yeah,
what
yeah.
would be your kind of the
Oh
go-to?
man. I don't know about you, but like when people find out like the degree that you like movies, it's just such an easy question to ask, right? But and
Right.
it's such a tough question to answer. Like I have a go-to, but like I have a different, I'm feeling a different way right now. But like the movie, just for some context, and I think I've touched on this before, but the movie that really opened my eyes and like kind of like threw me on like loving cinema was Interstellar. But these days, and my viewing of that movie is never detracted. I love it same, if not more, every time I watch it. But it just seems
Yeah.
these days, it just seems like such a like a film bro typical answer. You know what I mean? Because it's like
I
Chris
mean,
Nolan,
like
like of
Christopher
course
Nolan,
he's a
like
great.
talked about it before. Like he's one of those rare directors that's never made a bad movie. So like,
Absolutely, and
it'd
it's
be
fantastic, and I love it.
perfectly in line to love one of his movies. I think. Like, yeah,
Absolutely. And it's like just a movie that like I just have such a personal connection to because I just remember my jaw hitting the floor at moments in that movie and it really just like awakened something in me when I luckily I got to see it in theaters in 2014 when it came out. So like that's an easy
yeah.
choice. It's actually like I have a display and it's of Gargantua and the
Yep.
endurance. It's so sick. I love it so much. So I love that movie to death. But like today, what comes to mind is another like a typical answer, but on Carpenter's The Thing, I think just takes that
Uh,
spot. I
I
love that
love
movie so
I love
much.
that answer. That's so. I mean, that's my. I
It's
mean,
so awesome.
it's hard for me. Like Halloween is like all the way up there, but that's probably my second favorite John Carpenter movie. Uh, it's so crazy that it bombed when it came out. I mean, it found its life
I
later.
know, man.
It found its life later on, and that's sometimes that's a better thing to happen to a movie. To
Yep.
eventually find its audience, but like the fact that like people weren't picking up what he was putting down when that movie came out, like initially, like it's such a good example too of like really good practical effects too. Like it's like there's some like fairly
The
amazing
best of
stuff
the
in that
best.
movie. Yeah, like oh
And they
yeah,
hold up.
it's a solid number two. It's like close to Halloween. Like it's hard for me to like not have
Yeah.
Halloween at
And
the
those
top.
movies are hard. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
absolutely. It's just a movie that is absolutely bulletproof in every sense of the meaning to me. Like there's nothing I don't think you can take away from that movie. It's shot amazingly. It's scored great. The acting's awesome. Kurt Russell is like one of my favorite actors in it. The
Yeah.
acts, like you say, are timeless and will always make you feel squeamish while looking at it. The plot
Yeah.
is so intriguing and interesting to me. Everything about it is just something I love. And it's again one of those movies that I can confidently throw on if I am struggling to think of something or if I want to show somebody this. There's never
Yeah.
a bad time to watch the thing. And yeah, that's why it comes to mind today. But
Dude, I even
I
love the
almost,
movie poster. The movie poster is cool too.
yeah,
Like the
the
cover
poster's
is cool.
sick.
Everything about it's cool. Like from like top to bottom.
Yeah.
It's so
And
good.
there's so many like tidbits and just things to appreciate about the movie. Like if you just like cruise through like the trivia of that movie on IMDb, like there are so many cool things about it that I just really appreciate. There's just a
Yeah.
lot behind it that make it really special. And I'm one of those like diehard The Thing fans that like I even as much as like white people that wouldn't like the 2011 prequel, I still just think it
It's
adds so
decent.
much to the lore of it. I enjoy it honestly.
It's
It's
much
not
better than
perfect.
people. Much better than people give it credit for. I think that
It,
movie too, much like the thing, like Carpenter one. I think that one is
yeah.
finding its own life later on too. I think
Oh
people like
yeah.
have like learned to appreciate. I thought it was good when I first saw it,
Me
and
too.
I
A
also
couple
yeah,
times.
but it definitely also flopped when it came out. So
Flop. The biggest mistake was prioritizing CGI over practical effects, which makes
yeah,
no sense to me that they wouldn't follow the suit of the movie that they were
okay,
paying homage to.
yeah,
But you know what? Grievances aside, it still is. I still enjoy
yeah,
that movie too. But yeah,
yeah.
I feel like I
That,
want to rewatch this now.
that's a solid choice. You know what? I was thinking too. There's also certain movies that I will watch because I want to feel inspired. Like if I want to write something well, like I'll
Yeah.
like the Social Network is that for me because I think that movie is so
Okay.
well written. So when I'm watching it, I'm like, I want to write something like this. Like
Yeah.
the
Totally.
dialogue. Like I mean, like we always talk about like you're in film school. They always tell you like, oh, don't make your scripts too wordy. Like move the action along. But I guess if you're Aaron Sorkin or Quentin Tarantino,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
can just you can word the fuck out of it if you want. So like I mean like there's nothing better than like a solid Aaron Sorkin script,
Oh
and
my
that
God.
one it's top notch. Like everything about that movie, the fact that you can make that topic interesting to me, like it like
That's right.
on paper that should not be a good movie, but
No.
everything about it was like intriguing. So like. Yeah, so there's certain movies that just inspire you. There's certain movies like we talked about, like you see the Lost Boys poster. If I just want to like
Yep.
watch something that's fun, and I know this, I don't even have to like really look at the screen. I can like do other stuff. The Lost Boys is that kind of movie for me when it comes to like stuff
The
like
Lost
that.
Boys
So
is
like
so sick.
yeah,
Yeah.
different moods, but like yeah, it depends on kind of what I'm feeling. But yeah, like 25th Hour, that's my go-to
Right
favorite.
on.
And like, however, when I was growing up, and Owen used to make Owen made fun of me for this because actually make he was because we talked about it on like our 1 year anniversary episode. It's like, remember that time you said that your favorite movie was E.T.? And I was like, it was for a while. And he was like, yeah, that was a stupid
What's
answer.
wrong with that?
I was like, he was like, yeah, whatever. I guess you grew up with it. And I was like, it's a good
That was
movie.
that's it's funny you bring that up because that's the other Alien movie of 1982.
Yeah. See,
Yeah,
like, you don't have a fucking heart if that movie doesn't get to you in some way. In some
that's
way.
right.
Uh, so I
That
mean,
is awesome.
I had to retract it on our episode. He's like, "Can you pick something else?" Like almost like be an adult. Don't pick something
What's
from
his
your
beef with
childhood.
ET?
It was just like
That's
he
so
doesn't
funny.
like hate it. He just like like
Right.
picks. I think it was one of those. The question was what movie if you can only watch one movie over and over again, like it only had a choice
Okay.
for one. And I just off the top of my head I was like, oh ET, and he was like, what? He's like, he legit right away said that's a stupid answer. I was like, what? So whatever.
Oh,
Jackson doesn't think
you
it's
can't go
stupid.
wrong with Spielberg. No, not at all. You can't go wrong with Spielberg, man. He's the goat.
But yeah, that's hilarious. I forgot all about that. It made me feel stupid for liking ET. um, I there's a couple of things I want to just throw out there, and I don't have to like
Sure.
even make this a story. I just want to say people who like leak stuff about movies like on the internet. In this case, it's like the killer reveal for Scream 6. One put it in a Reddit post, and then another person put it on Twitter, and then like purposely had been retweeting it on like basically big stories about Scream, and so they would sure that like fans would see it. Uh, really
That's
shitty thing
cold,
to
man.
it's really a shitty thing to do. I'm thank God I didn't see it because
No,
I
I'm
think that
grateful you
I
didn't.
mean I would still see it of course, but that would definitely ruin the experience of like seeing it if you already knew
Totally.
this big revelation. I don't. I mean, there's this whole thing about toxic fandom. They like, some people are like, "Oh, they're upset because Nev Campbell's not in it." Like, well, if that is your big problem, like, just keep it to yourself. Don't go see it. Like, you don't have to go see it. Don't support it. If you're like a hardcore Nev Campbell, Sidney Prescott fan, just don't go see it. If you're mad that she's not in it, like to
Right.
like ruin that. Like, I actually felt bad for some of the people that were like so hyped that I followed, so hyped to see it, and for them to post and like on their Twitter that like it was ruined for them. Like they ran
That's
across
just
it
wrong.
accidentally. So like really, and this is for any movie. I don't care if it's like a Marvel movie, DC, a horror film. If there's like if the big like fucking like angle is like its secrecy, like it's not cool to
Hmm.
like ruin that for people that have been anticipating going to see it. And like I didn't want to touch on it being like a main story. I just wanted to just say like just a shitty thing if you
Right.
say you're a fan to do.
You're a
And
troll to do
basically,
that.
like there's no the fuck do you get from ruining someone else's like experience? I don't get it, and they've done their
Some people
best to
just want to
like
see the world burn, man.
yeah, Paramount's done their best to like block all of it, and like I mean they're trying. I mean people have seen it. I so happy I did it because I think I probably would have like cried on the show if I saw it. Like they did ruined it for me. Thankfully I didn't see it. And so one of the things I wanted to mention, I didn't mention this to you like offline, but it's just a quick
Okay.
one. You know, it's a sad story, but like the fact that like Bruce Willis now has like dementia, and I bring it up
Right.
because we actually did this up a long time ago. He was diagnosed with I think it's called aphasia, which is like
Right.
your like failure. It's like you can't communicate as well anymore, and which is why he couldn't like to retire from filmmaking. We talked about it when I think Anthony from the Cult Worthy podcast was on our show, and Owen was on, and we talked about it then. And I just will echo what I said then when I didn't know the diagnosis was as bad as this. Like people were like, "Well, why do people care so much?" And I think for certain people, there are certain like actors that are like, "Oh, he." I grew up with him being like a badass. This is like Die Hard. I mean, like this is like that's who you see, and
Right.
like and you kind of see like it's just a really sad thing. I think like someone that's so you see someone that's so larger than life in movies and in so many iconic
Hmm.
roles, and to know they're not gonna have that anymore, and like the family is doing the best they can to like kind of make sure he lives as full of a life as possible. Yeah, it's just sad, and like I just wanted to touch
It
on it
is
because I know
sad.
a lot of people love Bruce Willis, and I think I remember when the original story broke, and I had a friend that wasn't even trying to be funny. They were like, "Dude, like Variety and the Hollywood Reporter are like writing about him like he died. They're like almost eulogizing his like film career." And I at the time I was like,
Right.
"Well, his film career as we know it is over."
It is
So
over.
that's why it read that way, and like
And he's yeah,
yeah,
he's only
and
67. Like I was talking
yeah,
this with my mom yesterday, and I was surprised. Like I don't know why, I just assumed he was a little bit older. I was like, oh well, yeah, this is what happens as you age. Like sad, but not necessarily out of the blue. Yeah, he's
yeah,
only 67. Like that's 5 years younger than my grandparents. Like that's
yeah.
not that old. It's like really, it is tragic. It sucks to see. You're
Yeah, I
absolutely
mean,
right.
and I like seeing the positivity though from like his fans, like saying very encouraging things, and then also supporting the family, like know, he has one of those like kind of like modern blended families. Like he's Demi Moore and him are still very close, even though they're not together anymore. She's very close with his like current wife. All the kids are very close, and like I think it's cool that they all kind of rallied around him to like protect him and like kind of like make sure that he can live
Mhm.
as full a life as he possibly can. And I'm sure it is not easy for any of them involved. But I guess for us as movie fans, like we at least have like so many things we can look back on, like things that he's done, like so many classic movies that he's done. Uh,
Totally.
like I mentioned, like Die Hard, like some of the Die Hard sequels are great. Sixth Sense,
12
Sin
Monkeys.
City, 12 Monkeys,
Yep.
Pulp Fiction. Like he's been in so many.
Yes.
Fifth Element. I mean, you can go on and on about like the things that he's done, uh, and he's really left his mark on in a big way. I think. So at least there's that for us. I mean, like
He has an absolute legacy behind him, which I mean,
yeah,
that's all you want to be able to say as an artist. Like he is, will be immortalized for as long as we have the medium of film. Bruce Willis will be an iconic person. So at least
yep,
he has
I
that.
agree.
Like he definitely gave us a lot of great performances over the years, and is a great man. So
Yeah,
yeah, I
I
am
agree.
bummed out to hear the news. I don't know
Yeah.
what is there to expect like with
Well,
dementia. I don't know.
so from what
Life
I
term,
read, I didn't really. They just said there's no treatment for it. Or
right?
the type, yeah, it's the most common form of dementia that he has. Uh, it's basically like I guess trying to make him as comfortable as they can as far as it's kind of
Okay,
new. I don't know, and this is just speculating. I think they might be kind of keeping kind of close to the vest about how much he can or can't communicate well anymore. I mean, they didn't really go into detail.
okay,
Could be for all we know worse off than we think it is, or I think they're just trying to like protect him and like, but still give out the information that they think is necessary to like the people that his fans, people that care about his work, and like
right.
so yeah, yeah, and I think they handled it in a very good way too. I think the whole statement that they sent out was very very touching, and like the fact that like they were still seeming like they were remaining positive through it all. Like I'm sure it's hard,
Right.
but like they have a big of tribe around them, so I think that helps a lot. So
No doubt.
yeah, couldn't mention not mention that being a movie podcast and him being one of the like
Absolutely.
a pretty big movie actor. So I wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, somber note, but
Yeah,
wish it sending his family and him, the best wishes possible. I hope that he's still able to, enjoy his time with his family while he's got it, because
yeah,
wish nothing but the best for him. It
I agree.
sucks.
Uh, I
Um,
can. What do you want to bring up?
I was just gonna say box office.
Yeah, all
These
right.
good
Okay,
times.
we can lighten
What
it
were you gonna
up.
say?
We
Yeah,
we can we
exactly.
can lighten it up by saying we got a little better
Yeah.
predicting the box office. I was still wrong, but like uh, Jackson was pretty. Oh, you know what? I was pretty close if you count the 4 day. um,
Yeah, well, run the numbers by us again, because
but
I
like
forget.
I don't know if people are gonna say I'm like cheating by saying like, well, I was kind of close if you count like the 4 day the 4 day launch. Uh, so despite like polarizing response from critics, it still ended up making 105.5 million in 3 days. So like you were still relatively close with your 100 million guess, and then it made 120 million in days. So if you count the President's Day holiday.
Damn,
So I
$20
was
million
close.
day.
I was
Yeah,
close if
because you
you
said,
count
what'd you say?
said 125. But I was thinking 3 day
125.
weekend. I was thinking I forgot that was a holiday weekend.
Right.
I was thinking 3 days. So
Right.
I'm swerving and kind of cheating. Uh,
That's okay. I'll give it to you.
this is the closest we've been since
Right.
starting this, which means we are getting better at it. So there's that.
Absolutely.
Uh, but yeah, I mean,
Is there
yeah,
any?
can't underestimate the power of Marvel, man. Like it's like even with
That's right. Yes, this is
not so
Quantum
great
Mania for anyone that might be
yeah,
listening that
yeah,
didn't
yeah,
hear
yeah,
last
yeah.
week's episode.
I mean, a lot of
Yeah.
time quantum, yeah, yeah, and like some of you guys, some of you guys were very generous.
I
At
know
J Man, at J Man 535, 188 million opening weekend. That is very generous. Uh, at Bardwell 123, 150 million opening weekend. That's what they predicted.
Woo.
Uh, at the one they call John 76, 93 million, kind of close to the 3 day number.
Yeah.
Uh, at movies we underscore love 80 million. My buddy David, 80 million based on absolutely nothing, and then a shrug. Yeah,
Sometimes it feels like that.
yeah, and then our boy JC Merg with the movies, 115 million, so not too bad.
Oh, okay. Well, for that 4 day,
Uh,
that's pretty close.
yeah, underscore Brad underscore Fort, 115 million as well, and then at Drew Review 77, 108 million. Like, so there were people at the front of this. J-Man and Barwell, you guys were like, I don't know, maybe expecting Ant-Man was going to deliver some Black Panther opening weekend numbers. We mustn't forget that he is still a wee man and not as big as his other his other Marvel counterparts.
Counterpart.
uh,
Yeah.
I do respect all the guesses. So I'm glad that you guys keep sending them in because it makes it
Yeah. That's awesome.
makes
That
it
engagement. We like hearing from you guys.
it makes it more fun. And and I'm also going to comment on this because I know I keep mentioning it. Puss in Boots is still low key making a lot of money.
And
It's still
how's it
like
doing?
it's in fourth place this weekend. It made $5.3 million. It only dropped 4.8% from the previous weekend. It's made 166.1 million domestic and 423.4 million worldwide. Okay, I heard it's good. Like, it got really good reviews. I'm also gonna
Right.
assume that this is because it might be the only like kid offering there.
Yeah.
So
Seems so.
that, like, I just love that it's just been chilling in the top five since December. Since December, like, hasn't like moved. So good on you,
I think
Antonio Banderas.
yeah, it just goes to show, like, because there's no doubt there's been like some like child-centered movies released on streaming like since December. Like Strange World, I think, has been post December. Like streaming releases, like there's been some content for kids, but like again, like cinema is king. Like go to the theaters. People are still going to theaters for that experience, and that's why it's making, I think, the money that it's making. So honestly, I'm happy for it. Nothing, can't take away anything from that. It's surprising that it's doing so well so long though.
Yeah, and we're gonna update you girls and some of you guys. Magic Mike is no longer number one, of course. It was Ant Man. It didn't drop as much as I thought. It only dropped 34.3%, which is, I thought it was gonna drop much harder than that. But
Okay.
we did talk about Valentine's Day and like the like Super Bowl stuff and all that. It made $5.4 million, but because they moved it to theatrical, it was a $40 million movie. Uh, so it's not gonna make its money back in theaters, but maybe like streaming, like it'll be like a important title for them, like
Is
somewhat.
it still only at 5 million, or it had 5 million opening?
No, this weekend it grossed 5.4 million total so far. It's
Okay.
in 2 weeks it's made $18.8 million.
Okay.
It is not hitting 40 million
Dang.
here.
That third time was indeed not the charm.
It was not. Probably should have just kept it on HBO Max. uh,
Probably.
that probably would have been the wise choice. Do we have? Oh, we have a fun one to predict this weekend.
What's
Because
dropping?
opening on February 24th is Cocaine Bear.
Oh
I
my God.
I don't even know what context to give you because I don't know how to compare it to. Because like, with
I
the
have no
past one,
idea.
because of the past ones, I've been like, oh, I can compare it to like the other Ant-Man movies or the other Magic Mike movies. Uh, this
This is the
is
first.
an anomaly. So okay, you know what? I guess the one thing I can compare it to, I've been hearing a lot of like snakes on a plane comparisons where like, is
That's
this
good.
is this more like internet chatter making this a big movie than it actually becoming? Because Snakes on a Plane like opened okay, but it like, definitely for all the hype that they were like generating for it online, it probably should have opened much better than it did. So like, how much of this is just us thinking that we think it's gonna make a ton of money because it looks absolutely absurd and fun? Or like, how many other people are into it? I can't tell.
I I got a sense that a lot of people are looking forward to it. I've seen like TikTok ads and other social media trailers for this movie. I've seen it had a, a Super Bowl spot. It's been
Yeah.
on YouTube as like an ad, like the trailer. Like, I've seen it on all over the place. So I'm actually like wouldn't be surprised if it does well. Like this would be one that I'd be probably guessing on the more lucrative side for its opening, but I don't know yet what to place it at. Do we have
Right.
any sort of like context to
I
inform our
mean,
opinion?
there's nothing like to really compare it to. I mean, like, this one was tricky. I forgot it was coming out this weekend until I pulled up Rotten Tomatoes. I was like, oh, this one's fun, but then
Right.
I don't know what to compare it to. All right, I'm gonna assume that it's generated enough like interest and like this looks completely silly and like it might be a fun watch.
Right.
At least opening weekend. Uh, I'm going for it. I'm gonna go with like $23 million opening weekend.
23 million?
Yeah, I'm afraid to go higher because like, I can see it.
Yeah.
If it higher, I could be like,
Well,
okay, I could see that, but like, I'm gonna
I,
be safe. I'll be safe.
well, you know what? I'll play it a little fast and loose this week because I think I've gone under you our previous two times. I was even feeling more than this, but again, I feel like now with your answer, I was thinking a little high, but I'm just gonna cap it off at 30. See a 30 million opening.
I almost
I
knew
like those
that.
round numbers, man.
I almost did that, then knocked it down.
I'll take 30 confidently. I think it's gonna do well. We will see though.
All right, guys. Then we will like on opening day we will post. We'll ask you guys what do you think it's gonna open to. I can't wait to see some
Totally.
of the. I can't wait to see some of the numbers. I would think it's gonna be all over the place.
I actually
I want this to
go ahead.
succeed. I
Me
want it to do
too.
well. I want it to do well. I Elizabeth Banks like directing this and like just owning the fact that it's so utterly ridiculous,
Goofy
like
and
and
ridiculous.
goofy. Like everyone just
Greatly
leaning
Oda's
into
last role.
yeah, everyone leaning into it. Like go support cocaine bears. Maybe we
Absolutely.
can.
So actually, my best bud in town from Newfoundland, week he flies in tomorrow, and no doubt I'm sure we will go this on one of the days that he's here because I took the week off work and we're gonna need some stuff, some time to kill, and I think this would be a great Friday watch for us. So I'm expecting to see it. Hopefully, we'll be able to chat about it on Monday, maybe next week. Planning on
Yeah.
seeing it?
Yeah, I am seeing it on Thursday. Take my brother
Okay.
because we're very excited. He's also very excited to go see it.
Nice. Do you have a
Uh,
press screening for it, or are you
so
gonna see it in real time?
I'm not gonna see them all the time. I had one for Wednesday. It like conflicts with another thing I have to do. So that's I had to like forego it, but like still seeing it Thursday, I'll be fine. Like day before it opens wide. I'm so excited. I mean, maybe I should like lower my
I'm
expectations,
pumped.
but like super excited for it. Uh,
I would just like to be able to
yeah,
throw in some laughs and have a good time and turn my brain off for an hour and a half or however long it is. So I just looking forward to that.
for sure. Yeah, so like we're gonna end on that note. I want numbers all over the place, guys. Like have fun with it.
Totally.
Like don't second guess yourself. Just throw out your biggest number.
Yes.
Let's see if it
We will
sticks.
have the posts up and we will be checking for your feedback, guys. As always, thanks so much for tuning in. We love your engagement and all kind words that you have for us listening to the show. We love doing it for you guys. And just keep an eye on our socials at Back to the Blockbuster. We will have some stuff up there this week for you guys to interact with. We want to know your opinions on how Cocaine Bear is going to do at the box office. And as always, if you have friends that like this sort of content, or if you want to see us on any other avenues, you can check us out on Spotify, on Apple, on Google, at Good Pods, wherever you get your podcasts. And thanks for tuning in. We will see you guys next week. Gaius, as always, been a pleasure, my friend.
Always a pleasure. And I will also want to add, based on the calendar we've kind of wrote up, you guys
Mm-hmm.
will probably be hearing a themed episode very, very soon. So that will be a
Absolutely.
lot.
Lots coming down the pipe.
Yeah, that will be a lot of fun. Not just talking news. We have a few of them lined up for you, and some of them are coming up very soon. So I'm excited to. One of them I'm really excited to do. I haven't told him yet, but like there's one that's like
Okay.
that was like listed at the top. That was like, oh, that will be a really fun one. Yeah,
I'm very much looking forward to it. We have a lot of stuff to cover.
yeah,
So, always
yeah.
looking forward to it.
For all the secrecy, guys, we just have to keep you in suspense. All right,
Absolutely.
always a pleasure, my friend.
Thanks for listening, guys. Catch you
Yeah.
later.